Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate live and after show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join this discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of the people who support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out first, but not foremost, but definitely a huge shout out to Adrian Quintana, who's a recent Patreon, so big welcome to you, as well as a big shout out for supporting me on Patreon. Also, shout out to Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Yun Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin', Jeranism, Kirsten Smith, Life Is Short, Matt, Michael. Oh, my mouse is frozen. Let's get the backup mouse. I'm shouting at the Patreons. Come on, mousey mouse. Yep, this one works. Jolly good. Where were we? Kirsten Smith, Life Is Short, Matt, Michael, Page, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sam Hain, Skeptic936. I believe you're a new Patreon as well. Very warm welcome to you. Sweet Equity, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com and Tina Baker. So a very massive, huge, enormous shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. Now, we do actually have a few people in Google Plus and I believe on Discord as well. Hence me starting this live show a little bit early, as we're completely surrounded by people. There's no point in not having a conversation. Hello, 10th Man. Hello, Righteous Force. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
Good to have you. Can you hear us, Righteous?
Sounds good.
Clearly not. Check, check. Righteous Force. Ground control to Righteous Force.
Maybe
I
he's having coffee with Major Toms.
Maybe so. We've also got a few people in Discord, so let's scurry to get a few of you off mute. Dougie is already off mute. Hello. Bino. Oh, you've got Righteous Force today, so he's obviously unmuting people periodically anyway. Hello, everybody in Discord. Hello, Nathan. Good to be here. Oh, it's really good to have you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Nathan.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello there, Untitled. Is it Untitled? Can't quite. Is that right?
No, mine is Unfriend the Globe.
Unfriend the Globe.
That's right, yeah.
Slight downside to having a higher resolution screen is everything gets quite a lot smaller. But there we go. I'm sure I'll get used to it. So who wants to lead housekeeping? Maybe you, 10th Man?
Sure. Any signs of Earth curvature?
No, none
Nope.
whatsoever.
Nobody in Discord? Nobody? Okay. How about any...
Nope.
Good, good. How about any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Tentman, there is no proof of axis.
Nope, nope, nope.
Yeah.
Hey, the one, by the way. Good to have you.
Hi, hi.
Hi, hi.
Shall I continue? Or
Yes,
do you want
yes,
someone else to
definitely.
ask a
Please,
question?
please do.
Okay. Third one. Any scientific evidence for gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Anyone?
No,
Okay.
no, there isn't any scientific evidence of gravity. There isn't any.
That's true. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Impossible.
I think this came up last week a couple of times and still no answer.
Well,
All right.
you have to account for 6 Coriolis effects. If that's even remotely possible.
That's one of my favorite subjects. All right. Any evidence for the distance of the sun?
No apparent distance to the sun.
Not even angular?
Didn't hear the last word you said, 10th man. Say that again.
Not even angular?
Right, angular. Yeah, right. Not actual.
Not actual?
Not actual. There's going to be a lot of high-pitched nonsense today. I can just sense it. I'm going to read out all these super chats once we're done. Was that the last one?
No. We got 2 more. Any evidence of the radius of the Earth, the R value? Boing.
There are none here.
Very good. I like it. If that's right. All right, last one.
Just 10. What? 1 second. The last show I watched, Nathan was showing a guy drawing with chalk on the asphalt. There was some R presupposition there, so it's good to hear from that guy and see where he took it from.
Sure. All are welcome, as Nathan says.
Superb. I think that concludes the housekeeping.
No, one more.
Oh, right.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the antecedent, or should I say necessary antecedent, of a container to press upon?
Spurs.
Quickly, everyone say no.
Hide away. No.
Yeah, that's
Evidence
why.
is Spurs.
Go ahead.
Spurs
My
is the
answer to all
actual
of these
evidence.
is yes, there is some evidence.
Oh, hi, Don.
All right.
Can you share the evidence?
No, I'm not willing to present any of it. You should have found it already.
Okie dokie then.
I already did. I just go outside and breathe.
Yeah, that's evidence that there's gas pressure with no container. You
Yeah,
have to
the
go up in
respiratory
the sky
system
or
explains it all.
Trust
you
the other people that have
demonstrate
gone in
that?
the sky that
Can you
claim no
demonstrate
container.
that, please?
Have some faith in the people that go to the sky and come back and say, no, there's no roof.
Do you mean NASA, for example?
other
The
people, yeah.
astronauts with the wires and the fake ISS in the medium they can't be in, those people?
All the other people that go in the sky.
Well, have you been there?
Nobody goes in the sky. Of course they do.
Have you been there?
Info to outer space.
Flat
Have
Earthers
you
have
been
sent
there?
balloons up in the sky. Never has one hit a container.
Have you been there?
I've been in the sky in airplanes, yeah.
So you were in the container, the airplane.
I'm sure I'm sure I was halfway through the gradient at least, or at least a third of the way through the gradient. No container found.
Okay. Can you please demonstrate gas pressure without a container?
Well, you live in it, so that is the demonstration. You go outside and breathe, like you said.
Right, but can you please demonstrate how it's possible for gas molecules which go in every direction that are not bonding?
My demonstration would be showing you evidence of the phenomenon of gravity.
Every bit of evidence here done in any way, shape, or form, you must have a container to contain gas pressure. I'm asking you to demonstrate that for the Earth. You say there is no container, and yet gas pressure needs
Half
a
the
container.
demonstration. My demonstration is showing you that we have pressure because you can breathe it.
No, that's
using a
my
barometer on the
demonstration.
ground.
That's my assessment.
Then
No,
the
that's
next
what
part,
we're
the
saying.
next part of my demonstration is showing you that stuff gets attracted to the ground. That makes a gradient with the pressure by taking a barometer in a plane or up in a balloon or just up a mountain and measuring the pressure difference. That's the second part of the demonstration. The third part,
Don, you haven't
is
shown a demonstration, but you
having
and I
faith
agree
in
on one
all the
thing.
people that
We're
have gone
not-
in the sky and never hit a roof.
First of all, you said you've never been that high based on the airplane because that's not high enough. Second,
Well, it's a
you and
third
I
of the way
do.
through the gradient.
Can I talk, Don? Don, I'm trying to say we do agree on something. We experience gas pressure here. Now, please demonstrate how you can have gas pressure without a container.
Well, you live in the demonstration, so my demonstration is your life now, right now.
No, well, thank you. That's what we're agreeing on, that we are in a experiencing gas pressure, and since gas pressure cannot be without a container, what are you saying actually?
So the second part of knowing that there isn't a container, or at least believing that there probably isn't one, is not me demonstrating it, but me telling you you can use a barometer and go up a mountain. Did you know? So that gets you more of the gradient.
Can I ask a question?
You can also go on a plane like I did.
Dawn, is your do your lungs work as a container?
Do my lungs work as a container? I don't exactly know how my lungs work, honestly.
So obviously, hello, you need to have a container to have gas pressure, just as you need lungs to have air.
Well, we don't. That's what I'm now telling you. Because we witness it here on Earth all day, every day. Nobody has ever found a container, ever, in the history
we don't
of
want you to,
humans.
We don't want you to tell us. We want you to demonstrate it.
Well, you're asking for a demonstration of the whole Earth with gravity and no container.
What?
But that's a ridiculous thing to ask for.
What is gravity?
What is gravity? It's the appearance of attraction of mass to mass for some reason.
That's not what gravity is. It's a bending of time-space right now.
With the effect of appearance of attraction of mass to mass, yeah.
Well, no, we don't experience fat people attracting skinny people.
No, that's not enough mass, is it? That's
well,
not what gravity says.
The point is this, that they've thrown Newton under the bus and say there is no force called gravity, and they're saying it's a bending of time space, which is a convention. It's a made-up thing. How do you fall for all this stuff, Don?
If you rigged up some kind of sadist Cavendish with a fat person and a skinny person, maybe you would measure an attraction. I don't know.
Cavendish surely is something that you're citing, but I'm trying to ask you something about bending of time space. Do you believe in Einsteinian or Newtonian gravity?
So I believe in the phenomenon that I call gravity. I don't know exactly how it works. I believe in both of them for the moment.
Oh, so you believe in equal and disequilibrium. That's what you see. But you call it gravity. You just call it gravity, and we call it things at rest.
Things at rest?
Yeah. Like a book on a shelf is resting until you pick it up and drop it. But you'll call that falling gravity.
Dude, I'm not going to argue about that today. That's absurd.
Of course.
So are you presupposing a container over the whole of Earth then? Is that what you're doing?
I am saying you cannot demonstrate gas pressure without a container. Please show me how it works without one. I might entertain your idea.
You're just telling me what I can't. You're telling me that I can't demonstrate the whole Earth to you.
I'm asking you to demonstrate gas pressure without a container.
Now that you've gone around that circle a few times, Ted Man. Sorry to interrupt. You've gone around the circle several times now, so I'm just going to do a quick shout out to Joey's Live for saying keep up truth, Nate Dogg. Love you in Louisiana. Thank you very much for the super chat. Also, Skeptic936 says scientific evidence of what? Thank you very much for the super chats. Feel free to continue on your merry-go-round.
When you're asking me to demonstrate gas pressure without a container, is that you pre-assuming that Earth has a container?
No, what I'm asking you to do...
Is it just you being a contrarian?
Don't let him answer. Don't let him answer.
What I'm saying is before I would entertain your hypothesis, you must demonstrate how you can have gas pressure without a container when everything here on Earth needs a container to have gas pressure. That's all I'm asking.
What, is he talking about man-made or the natural world there?
I'm talking if you're going to put an option on the table that we can have gas pressure next to a vacuum, you must demonstrate it for me to even allow it to be an option. Please demonstrate it.
I've already told you the demonstration, the 3 parts. You go up a mountain with a barometer, you measure the pressure change, then you assume it keeps changing in pressure as you go up. Then you go in a plane and measure it more, and you confirm the hypothesis. It keeps changing. Then you get a
So are you
balloon with a
talking-
barometer, and you go much higher, and you
Are
confirm
you
again
talking
that it
about
keeps
gas
changing.
pressure gradient?
Then you take
Guys,
a leap
Is
of
it-
faith that someone's gone even higher.
Sorry,
and
everyone
measured
else.
a
I
full
just want to hear.
vacuum.
Hold on, Dawn. Sorry, I'll just clear the air for you. I just want to hear Dawn explain it all the way through once, please.
Okay. It's not just me showing you and saying, here it is, look, or showing your YouTube video with gas pressure without a container, because that's absurd. This is me explaining how you can demonstrate that Earth doesn't have a container, as in atmospheric pressure.
Okay,
With no
thank you.
container.
So beyond his
not
fundamentalist
gas-
religious belief about what Earth does, he cannot demonstrate gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container. He can't. He can only express his fundamentalist religious belief about what Earth does. That's the end of this conversation.
Almost, Nathan. I can't demonstrate what you
And-
are asking for exactly. Because
Yeah,
that's
antecedent.
absurd.
But a
Antecedent.
barometer,
Look it up.
a barometer is a container.
Does that mean you're presupposing an Earth container, Nathan?
No,
Because you
I
said the
don't.
word
I don't
antecedent.
suggest that. I suggest that people who assert that we have a sky vacuum are wrong, because in order to have gas pressure, you need the antecedent of a container. I don't know what the sky
that
is.
does
I
sound
just
like you're
see,
presupposing
Dawn.
an
I'm
Earth
going to clear the
container. You're saying
airways
it's
for you
wrong
to
that we
talk,
don't
but
have
not
one,
if you're going to talk over
and there's
me
an
when you ask me a
antecedent, there
direct
must be
question.
one.
I'm just going to kick you
Okay,
out
I'll
if
wait
you
till you
continue
finish.
to
I'll
do
wait till
this.
you finish.
So you've asked me a question. I'm now answering, and you're talking through my answer, even though only moments
didn't
ago
finish the question.
I
I didn't
cleared
finish
the
the question.
airwaves for you. Now, because I'm pointing out that you're talking through what I'm saying, you're continuing to talk through what I'm saying. So this will
I
be
didn't finish
one
my
opportunity. Right, I'm going to kick you out, Dawn. Not even going to get to give you the warning not to talk through what I say. Yeah, don't talk through other people when they're talking, especially not me. Okay? So we are asking the people who make the positive assertion that the sky is a vacuum to prove that nonsense. And the reason we ask is because you can't have gas pressure without a container. That's the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure. I've got to kick him out, haven't I?
I said okay.
You don't need to say okay. That closes the gate, doesn't it, Dawn? You've been on YouTube for enough time to know that you talking while I talk closes the gate and stops the audience hearing what I'm saying. So don't nod along. I don't need you to nod along. I don't need your affirmation of what I'm saying. I know what I'm talking about. You, on the other hand, are saying, I go up a mountain and see lower pressure. I then assume that it dissipates to zero, a violation of a natural law. So, no, that's not what would happen. The necessary antecedent to have gas pressure in any shape or form is a container. So while we don't assert what the sky is, we are challenging the positive assertion from fundamentalist globe zealots who assert that the sky is a vacuum, by pointing out that the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure is a container. That is all.
Your challenge of the assertion that there isn't one is a pre-assumption that there is one.
No, I don't have to assert what the sky is in order to point out to persons who make a positive assertion that the sky is a vacuum that the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure in the first instance is a container, challenging the issue that the sky is not a vacuum. Now, I don't need to point out what the sky is to point out that that assertion is incorrect.
You've shown no evidence
Talked
for
through every word I just said, so that's the last Dawn will be saying here today. Come back tomorrow when you can manage to not talk through every single word that I say. Thank you, Dawn. Goodbye.
Hey, Nathan. Nathan,
Okay,
check my mic.
I have proof. I have proof.
Excuse me, Nathan, can you check my mic I put on the headset? Am I okay with you?
Much better, actually. Slightly louder, which is good. You're typically quite quiet. Go ahead, Spurs.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So I took a pressure gauge that you measure pressure with, took it off the gauge, took it outside, and it read 0. So how is that not demonstrating to you, with the same gauge that we measure pressure with, that this gauge reads 0 when we take it outside?
You know what I think you should do, Spurs? I think you should take it as read that means there's no pressure and go on your way.
Do we agree?
No, it would include the atmospheric pressure. The fact that it's measuring a differential with that gauge, and therefore the differential starts at 0, doesn't mean there isn't atmospheric pressure. It's a nonsense. We've covered this already in multiple shows. I'm so sick of this after 6 weeks, Spurs.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, we've got a pressure gauge that we're measuring gas pressure with a container, and then we take that gauge
And
put
take it
in the
outside.
atmosphere where there's gas
Yeah, I heard
pressure.
you the first time.
So what's the difference? Why wouldn't it read
I
the pressure?
just explained the difference. Your gauge, which is measuring a pressure differential, starts at atmospheric pressure. 0. Now, that arbitrary scale that they put on there doesn't mean there isn't atmospheric pressure, but if you want to take it as that, you can. Feel free to just accept that 0 means 0, and that there's actually no pressure. There's no gas moving at high speeds, colliding with things. That doesn't happen because the gauge says 0. Okay, Spurs, I concede. No pressure, a gauge says 0 when in atmospheric pressure. Fine, if you say so.
Yeah, so that should be the end of it, right? The gauge that
I
we
hope
use
so.
to measure,
Let's hope so.
The gauge that we use to measure gas pressure with in the container.
That's right.
Yeah. So
the pressure differential, yes. You can take that as the pressure differential gauge that would have atmospheric pressure measured at 0. You can take that to actually mean there's 0 pressure at sea level. Fine. Good. I concede. So, we haven't got any air.
So how would you...
Very good.
Is there another way to measure the gas pressure?
With a barometer. We've covered this about 1,000 times.
So I can put my barometer in a canister and get the pressure measurement.
So what you're going to do now is equivocate between inside a container and atmospheric pressure. So we're now using a completely different example.
Is it not the same gas? Is it a different gas outside the can than inside the gas?
Is it an open can?
An open can?
Oh, that seems to have a high inflection. Like, no, you were implying a pressurized can at a completely different pressure. Well, I'm asking if it's an open can, because you're implying that they should be the same. And I'm saying if they're open, these cans, then they'll be the same as atmospheric pressure. Yes.
Yes, but I'm talking about a closed can. We use a gauge. Yeah?
What, a highly pressurized can? Oh, well, that would be different to atmospheric pressure then. Higher than atmospheric pressure, because it's pressurized.
Well, let's say I put my tyre up to 14.7.
Yes.
With the gauge, tells me
exclusive of atmospheric pressure. I've just gone through this 3 times. The gauge in a petrol station forecourt does not include atmospheric pressure. So when it says 0, it means atmospheric pressure. About 14.7 psi, as you put it. So you're trying to be clever by saying I put 14.7 in the tyres, and that means that it's at atmospheric pressure, but it's got more pressure than the atmosphere. No. Plus the atmospheric pressure. You had this explained to you by, I believe, Rumpus.
Yeah, but you're presupposing that 14.7.
Sorry, you had this explained by someone else. Concisely.
Yeah, but I'm asking you, where did you get the 14.7?
Why are you asking me that when I'm explaining that this is the second time you've had this explained by me and by Rumpus? The first time you mentioned it, I put it in a comment underneath the video addressed to you about the differential between the pressure reading on the tyre pressure in a forecourt and atmospheric pressure, which is not included.
Yeah, but why are you including something when you haven't told me where you got it from?
I get it from gas. By the nature of gas behaviour, by the very nature of its behaviour, that's how I know it has pressure, because of what it does. It moves freely and randomly in all directions, and when it hits something, the amount of force is the pressure. Simple. PSI, pounds per square inch.
If I have an empty tyre at 0, you're saying that this already has a pressure in it.
Atmospheric pressure, that's correct.
How much atmospheric pressure?
The same as everywhere else around it.
How much? How much is that?
It depends on where you are. So it varies. Depends. About 14 psi. There or thereabouts in round numbers.
How did you get that number?
How did I get the number? I didn't. I've never measured atmospheric pressure beyond a barometer that was hung on my parents' wall when I was a kid.
You got that number from a barometer?
Correct. When I was a kid, there was a barometer hanging up on my parents' wall. Yes.
Can you show me?
What, the one from Mackenzie Road in Birmingham when I was growing up? No, surprisingly not.
Can you show any barometer that shows 14.7?
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're,
Yeah, it is quite absurd. He's failed to use his little "I fill my tyre with 14.7" bullshit argument. That went straight into the dump, and now he's doing this. So what? I've got to prove 14.7. It's just an arbitrary number. It's an arbitrary number that I don't care about in the slightest. What I know is how gas behaves.
Yeah, but why did you add to the 14.7 that I put into the tyre?
Arbitrary. It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. By the nature of how gas behaves, it has pressure. End of story. I know I'm breathing gas. Therefore, I know there is pressure.
Yeah.
Who cares what number is arbitrarily assigned to it? It makes no difference. There is definitely gas, therefore there is definitely gas pressure.
Yeah, but if I wanted to know exactly how much pressure is on
Doesn't
this
matter.
tyre...
Doesn't matter.
How
You're
would I
denying
find
it.
out?
You're denying it's there at all. You're saying 0 because a tyre pressure gauge says 0. And I'm saying no, there's definitely gas in the air, and therefore there is definitely gas pressure.
Yeah, so because you're saying there is, I'm asking you, how would you find out how much pressure there is?
So you concede there is gas pressure then?
No, I'm saying that if you're saying there is...
But you're not
how would
conceding
you-
that there's gas pressure.
No, I'm saying there's gas, but pressing, how would you find out how much is pressing on the tyre?
Pressing on a tyre?
Yeah. How much pressure is pressing on the tyre from the outside? How would
Good
you
morning,
find out?
guys.
Atmospheric pressure.
Good morning.
Atmospheric pressure. Whatever the atmospheric pressure is in that particular neck of the woods. Depending on your altitude and location and weather and a whole bunch of other things.
So I can just fill up my tyre with 14.7 and just add any number I like.
You can arbitrarily put a scale together. Yeah, you could do it if you wanted to. Instead of the measurement over a square inch of something, you could do it in whatever way you want to arbitrarily scale it. As long as it makes sense in some form or another, it doesn't really matter. You can measure it in torr if you want. It's just a different value for measuring pressure. Who cares what the arbitrary scale is? We know we've got gas, therefore we have gas pressure. That's the end of this argument.
Yeah, I'm just trying to establish, like, for example, I fill up my tyre with 14.7. Then I could just say, well...
We
the
shit
atmosphere
on
is
this a
on
moment ago. I took a crap on this. So you're going to try the same crappy little example earlier by putting 14.7 psi in the tyre, same as atmospheric pressure. Yeah, then you need to add on 14.7 psi, because that would be the atmospheric pressure that was there in the first instance, because the gas hasn't gone anywhere. We still had gas before you started pressurising that tyre, and that gas has pressure, whether you want to deny it or not, or start dancing around the values and the arbitrary scales that are assigned to them. We have gas, therefore we've got gas pressure. You're denying that. So I'm out at this point. No more.
I'm not denying it. I'm just asking.
Yeah, you are.
how-
I'm not denying it. That's exactly what you're doing. You're denying that we have gas pressure. You came on and said we've got 0 on my scale, therefore 0. No, that's wrong. We have gas, therefore we have gas pressure. That's the end of this argument. Who cares how it's arbitrarily scaled?
Yeah, but how much gas pressure?
Who cares? You're denying that it exists in the first place. 0 at sea level is what your claim is. Now you're saying how much of the thing I deny. Yeah, that's the end of this. You've been smashed.
So because I said 0, I could have said 5.
Yeah,
100,
but we're not interested in a chemo scale for gas pressure.
It doesn't really matter. Like Nathan's saying, you could add any number. 50.
Yeah, you could add any number.
14,
It's got to make
0,
sense.
Nathan,
whatever you want. That's what I'm trying to establish, is that you can make up your own number to add to the real pressure.
So what?
Yeah, do you know the problem with starting at 0 though? You can't have minus pressure. You can have it pressing less, but you can't have it the inverse. It doesn't reverse that and go into a minus scale where it's not pressing at a reversed scale. That's nonsense. So if you start your pressure scale at 0, and then what do you know, you travel somewhere else, you might find that you're into minus numbers when in reality you've just got a bit less pressure. So it makes no sense if you start at 0.
Well, it makes just as much sense as with the temperature systems, because they are also arbitrary and they do go into 0 and all that, while technically it is not really that useful. So this could be done, but why would you even want to do that? Why would that be necessary?
Yeah, the one that goes into 0 is representative of a phase change. Celsius is representative of the phase change at water at 0. So that's where the scale comes from, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can translate a negative figure I mean, you might be able to qualify it, you might be able to quantify it in that way and give an arbitrary scale that does include minus numbers for pressure, and you can explain it how it makes sense verbally or mathematically. Who cares? It's less amounts of the molecules hitting, for PSI at least, a per inch value. That's all it is. Less of that.
Yeah.
Are you saying that when the molecules hit the oceans, they bounce like balls back up into the atmosphere?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just wondering. And you're saying that when they go up to the highest top of the container, they hit the container and bounce back down.
I have no idea what happens in the sky, Spurs.
Look,
Nathan.
it's random trajectory.
But Nathan,
the higher
you're
the
saying
gas
that
goes, the less
particles
options
hit the
it
ground.
gets.
What made them hit the ground? Where did they come from? If they bounce into the ocean, where did they come from originally?
You accept that happens, though? You accept that an air particle could hit the ocean?
No, I'm begging your question, aren't I?
I'm just asking if you accept that or not.
No, I don't believe in that nonsense. I'm saying if you're saying, okay, fine, they hit the water, they bounce up, but where did they come from in the first place?
So you do accept that they bounce off the water, hit it, and
Yes,
bounce off?
For the sake of your argument, yes, I accept gas pressure.
Not for the
Can we
sake of
move
the
forward?
argument.
No.
In principle, this is basic gas behaviour. But you're saying, in principle, I'll accept. No, that's what gas does.
Okay, fine.
I think it's getting worse. Are you asking where is gas coming from?
Hold on, I want to get this point tied down. If that's gas behaviour, so I want to know if Spurs fundamentally denies it, because I'm not going to accept. Yeah, I accept it for your argument. No, this is fundamentally what gas does.
I have a question.
You don't believe in the globe, but you've asked questions about it.
He's just not, because he doesn't understand how gas works at a fundamental level. So when he's going to deny that it could potentially bounce off something, precisely the thing that causes pressure, then there's no point in having the argument, because he denies gas behaviour at a fundamental level.
Nathan.
Yeah, can we talk about something else?
Oh, I believe in gas pressure. Right, but I don't understand how it works. You do, right? I have no understanding how it works, but you understand. I believe in this belief, but I want to know how it works. So they come down, hit the water, bounce up, and where do they go?
They bounce up until they hit something else, either another particle of gas, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Quick question for
Or
Spurs.
a container edge.
Quick question. Spurs, what causes waves in the ocean?
Well, how come that Nathan won't answer the question? Where did they come from to bounce and hit the water? And once they bounce up, what force will change their direction, for example? Do they make it to the top? How high do they make it before they stop? How do they work?
So what you're describing is pressure. How much force is exerted when they hit something and bounce off it? But you want me to argue about where the gas pressure came from now, when this is fundamentally what you are arguing about? That action you're describing is gas pressure. That's what you're describing. And you want to argue about where it came from in the first place? Well, no. This is your argument.
No, I'm saying they hit the water.
No, yeah, it is. Yeah, that bit where it hits something else, yeah, that's what gives you the PSI. Yeah? How much it's hitting over a certain area. Yeah? Hitting and then bouncing off, Spurs. That's your argument. This is pressure, the essence of it.
Okay.
Yep. So that's what pressure is. And you're saying, no.
Well, it might be a good idea to define pressure if you can hear me.
I'm talking about their path. They hit the water, they go up. Now, what force will change their direction?
What do you mean, what force will change the direction? The force of it hitting is the pressure that you're denying. So you're trying to red herring away from this detail. It's about the fourth time I've said it, I believe.
No, for example, I throw a ball.
And you just keep saying, yeah. My response to that is pressure. That's the thing you're denying. You're saying it bounces off and goes in another direction. Where does it go? Who gives a shite? That's pressure. That's what you're describing. And every time I point it out, it's the fifth time, you say, let's cue the word, no.
I agree.
That's your rebuttal.
Let's say with a tennis ball, it hits the floor. The floor will stop the particle. That's the force, the floor. So
yeah, and if it's gas, that's the same. So the gas hits the floor, and the pressure and the amount of particles that hit per inch is the amount of pressure that gas is producing. That's what pressure is.
Of course, you're right, yeah.
So we have gas pressure then. Yes, I am right. And we definitely have gas, so we definitely have gas pressure. I am right. Spurs has wasted 6 weeks of everybody's time. Yes, let's move on.
Okay, can I ask
Nathan.
questions about this belief, or we should just accept this?
No.
It's not a belief. Yep. The bouncing, the bit where you say it hits and goes in a different direction and want us to qualify where it's going, that's pressure. That's the bit that you say doesn't exist. According to you, what? Do you just hit something and stops?
Are you allowed to ask questions about your belief or not? That's what I want to know.
What questions? You're asking me about the bit that you deny, the pressure bit, when it bounces off something. And you want to talk about the bit beyond that. Yeah, it's very fundy, very kind of globe head. We're talking about something specific, pressure, and it's real. You say it's not real, but you want to qualify what happens after the pressure's produced, when it bounces off something, and talk about the bit afterwards. So the bit that happens before, the bit that you're denying, is the bit I want to talk about, because we've spent 6 weeks with you denying gas pressure. Now we've got to the point where you're asking me to make an example or explain what happens after something hits something. That's where the pressure comes from. That's where we're sticking.
Okay, fine. So that's what I was saying to you. It hits the water. That's the pressure, right?
Yes, end of this argument. So there is pressure. Gas produces pressure. That's the end of this argument. There is no more arguing about whether or not gas is pressure. We have gas, therefore we have pressure.
Are we allowed to ask questions about this belief?
Don't give a crap. Doesn't change that statement that I just made. We have gas, therefore we have gas pressure, qualified by you as the bit where it bounces off something. Yes, that's the pressure. Correct. Can't deny it. It's really there.
Okay, fine. It's there.
Excellent. So can we stop talking about the denial of gas pressure? This is stupid. And you dragging it out for maybe 7 weeks is stupid.
Wow.
Nathan, I took some time to vet out the videos that Spurs showed on the Friday show. That was the 932nd show. Paul, I've asked Paul to be my wingman. Paul, will you present the testimony of one of the children in that science class who observed and filmed the video that Spurs was referring to, please?
Yeah, give me a second.
I'm sure there's a word for something where you can't ask
This should be
questions
awesome.
about a belief. Fine, they hit the water, right? But where do they go?
Yeah, that's pressure. Where they hit the water. You ignoring that and moving on to where they go is you ignoring what pressure is.
Not. It's me accepting the idea that particles bounce off the water, they go up, and then what?
And then they go in another direction.
Don't take the bait, Arwin. I'm not interested in what happens afterwards. That's the bit he's denying. That's gas pressure, the bit where it hits and changes directions. Because it's not hitting and stopping, is it? That would be ludicrous to assert that that's what gas does. It definitely just bounces off and carries on. So he's happy to accept that that happens. That's gas pressure.
But we can't ask questions about it, though. So
No, it's not asking questions when you ask about what happens afterwards, when the bit you're denying is the bit where it bounces off. You're just walking past that bit.
All right, so we were created as a god, end of. Just believe.
Sorry, that was a red herring, if ever I've heard one. So the gas bounces off something, and the amount of particles that are bouncing per measured inch value would be a PSI value, a pressure value. That's the bouncing bit.
God,
Yes.
Nathan. Just accept it. We have a Bible, we have a church.
Is he rumpusing the hangout? Is that what's going on now? He's now rumpusing the hangout rather than me concisely demolishing this. I see. Is it time to eject Spurs? I think it is.
We demonstrated so much to you, and you just literally ignore everything.
Yeah, is it time to eject Spurs? Because he's just
we have a creation.
Just rumpusing, isn't he? He's not stopped talking.
Can we read what Paul's got? Excuse me, Spurs. Please listen to a child who was in the classroom of the video you tried to push on us on Friday. Paul, present it, please, and read it.
First of all, can you guys see it? Or I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, the audience can see it as well.
Okay. A science teacher left her pupils flabbergasted after performing a gravity-defying experiment with the help of a little trick. Miss Madden from Mount Kisco, New York, held a jar full of water upside down to show her students that even after removing the cover, that liquid would not fall into the sink below. Let me switch it back here to the next part. Whoops, where'd it go? Well, darn it, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. She explained that the air pressure within the jar was stronger than the gravity and thus able to keep the water inside its container. However, the experiment involved some trickery the students weren't aware of. Jordan, 13, who filmed the experiment, said The air pressure pushing up is stronger than the force of gravity pulling down because there is a wire mesh which divides the top into tiny sections. And then because of this, there needs to be less force in order to hold up the water, only enough for the mass of each individual section. We, the students, could not see the mesh either, so our reactions were all genuine. We were completely surprised and amazed.
Now, Paul, please refer to the individual in the talk show that shows the mesh and how this trick is done, how Spurs fell for it.
Okay, let me find the section here.
Well, isn't this basically similar to keeping water in a straw?
Yeah.
In a way, yeah, basically it's the same concept.
Right.
Here he's showing the mesh that he put inside the jar that was replicating the same experiment in this video. I can drop the video links into the chat or into the description or wherever. So
Well,
it's really
Paul,
the mesh is what's holding the water up.
So when they were poking the fingers into that jar, they were hitting the mesh, which was holding the water up. It was a trick, Spurs. You fell for it.
Well, maybe you could consider it like this. Because that filament is against it, the water surface doesn't naturally break. So there's not a lot of ways for the fluid to go because the surface tension is not breaking. So it has more tendency to just stay in its shape.
It's exactly what Flatzoid said. It's tension, and the tension was created by the mesh.
Yeah.
So technically the mesh was holding up the water and the tension was keeping it from going through the mesh.
It's like a surface tension reinforcement.
But Spurs would have you believe
Yeah, it's what I explained
everyone
Friday.
yes, but Spurs would have you believe that you can stick your finger into it, and why isn't the water coming down when it was a trick all along?
Well, and here's the other part of that too.
Show the magician one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. That was the next part. Here's a picture of the magician doing the same thing. The only difference in this trick, he puts a piece of plastic on the top of the glass, and the way he makes it magically fall out, he had drilled a small hole at the top of the glass. And so when he released his finger from the top of the glass, the air would virtually rush in and the water would fall down, even with a little piece of plastic on there. I'll show you the piece of plastic here. Just bear with me just a second.
Yeah, so it is the straw effect.
Yeah, see, there's a piece of plastic he had on the cardboard, and there it is there. And then he goes on and shows.
I was just going to add. I think Arwin had
the
best
falling out there. Go ahead.
I think Arwin had the best description so far. So surface tension reinforcement. I'd say that's a pretty accurate description of what's going on.
Yep.
Yep.
That's that masked magician that reveals other magicians' tricks, right? That's what that is. Nice.
Is that YouTube name a reference to?
Actually, just don't get sidetracked. Just don't get sidetracked on this. Spurs, what do you think of this? What is your now thinking of what you showed us on Friday? I actually watched it even though I was on vacation. So.
It's the same as the straw trick. You can just make a vacuum and the water will suck up. That's not the only way to do it. You can do it different ways. You can burn the oxygen inside the cup, create a vacuum.
Okay, wait a minute. Slow down. You said vacuum. What does vacuum imply? That's what?
Well, it's a low pressure. You create a low pressure, and
so we've been talking about gas.
So
pressure.
there is pressure then, right?
Hold on. Hold on. Go ahead, Paul.
Pressure.
Do what? Sorry.
Let Paul have his. I want to clear the airwaves for you to have your moment. You're about to. The coup de grace is coming, and everyone can sense the blood.
I'm on mute.
The vacuum implies that there's a pressure, which implies pressure. So when you say vacuum, you mean pressure or the lack thereof.
Yeah, if you create a force, you'll be able to do all sorts of things, right?
No, Spurs, don't go past this.
Past where?
All this is showing that there is gas pressure.
He said past
when
what?
You talk vacuum.
Hold on, Paul. He said past what? So maybe summarize again the differential that implies there is an external pressure when you create a vacuum.
Right. The vacuum is a differential pressure from inside the container to outside the container.
Yeah, but
Right
Paul,
now.
you said that teacher said.
So if there's less pressure inside the container, or no pressure inside the container, then there's definitely pressure outside the container, and that would be the atmospheric pressure. In order to create a vacuum in the first instance, you'd need to remove the pre-existing gas pressure, the very thing Spurs denies.
Paul,
Thank you, Paul.
said the teacher
Excellent.
said.
Just let me
that-
give Paul kudos while you flap and whatever that people do when they've had their
We've asked some
argument handed
questions
to
about
them.
the belief again.
Let's shut him up. So kudos to Paul for absolutely obliterating this argument with a few of Spurs' own words. Excellent job, Paul.
Right.
Paul, you said the teacher said that was held in. The water was held in because of atmospheric pressure. Then
No.
you said. Then you said. Then you said. Then you said.
No, that's not what I said.
What's the title of the video called?
Called Spurs Gets Fooled by Mesh.
What's the title called, Paul?
Spurs Gets
I
Fooled
like
by
that.
Mesh.
Spurs gets fooled by mesh, and it gets
Exactly,
fooled by water
Paul. That's the point. It wasn't the atmosphere, was it? It was mesh. So the
Okay,
water was held in
hold
because
on,
of the
Spurs.
mesh, not the atmosphere, right?
Hold on. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this video that I'm
Oh,
showing
I
you
think
right
I
now.
see what's happened. That was Spurs' gotcha. No one took the bait, Spurs, and it's backfired because it now looks like you fell for a trick. But you're going to try and pin that us, aren't you? You're going to try and pin this on us? Like you were going to get us to concede that it was pressure holding it in, when in reality it was a mesh. And that was Spurs' gotcha that's just backfired.
He's constantly doing that. First, he starts to concede to gas pressure, and then at the end, he just says, "Yeah, it's all nonsense,"
Right,
and
of course.
I'm
teacher
back
said
again.
that was in the-
I forgot
in the
everything
dark
again.
because of atmospheric pressure, but we now know it was because of a mesh, not atmospheric pressure. There is
No, we smashed this. You just didn't address anything that Paul said in regards to the vacuum that you described. You could also do this test with. So you described doing it with a vacuum. You, Spurs, described the creation of a vacuum. And upon doing so, Paul, sharp as a tack, immediately pointed out to you that in order to create that differential, you'd need to have atmospheric pressure on the outside of it. A differential. Something with higher pressure. Even though it's not any different to you just standing around, you can let off a little bit of smoke, set something on fire under a cup, and create a differential, i.e. less pressure in the cup. You've whistled past this, tried to use your gotcha that backfired, which has failed miserably, and now we're back onto, the vacuum you described. That would be a lower than atmospheric pressure, wouldn't it, Spurs?
There was no vacuum, it was the mesh.
Yeah, we're not talking about your mesh shit now, are we? We're talking about the creation of a vacuum, a lower pressure, therefore proving atmospheric pressure.
No, we're talking about the
and you keep
teacher.
rumpusing me and whistling past it. Paul's got you over a barrel, Spurs. If you know how a vacuum's created, then you must appreciate that you're removing the pre-existing pressure, proving we have pressure. Spurs.
No, we can get to that.
No, we're here. You're just being held over a barrel by Paul. Because if you remove pressure, then you must have had pressure in the first instance, Spurs. Yet you're being bent over, and all you can do is rumpus the living crap out of the hangout. It's okay, Spurs, I closed your line so that you didn't distract from this point where you get obliterated. Yeah, your vacuum example, Spurs, is proving that there's atmospheric pressure, the thing you deny. You're going to address that?
I will address that. Address the teacher lying to us.
No, that's not addressing us. You're now moving on to a different subject. Removal of the atmospheric pressure by creating a vacuum proves there is gas pressure in the atmosphere. Go.
I thought it was a vacuum.
Oh, you were just wrong, were you? What, removing atmospheric pressure by way of burning a gas in a cup, for example, isn't reducing the gas pressure, proving atmospheric pressure? You're a fundy. You want to distract from the real arguments that are happening here. It's all you've done for the last 6.5 weeks.
We can talk about vacuums. We can talk about vacuums.
I'm going to take a vote from the audience. At this point, this is the end of his argument. Nothing so far Paul has managed to come up with mainly because he caught on Spurs pointing out a creation of a vacuum, meaning he definitely knows what that means. At this point, he cannot get out of this, And I vote if he continues to rumpus, we kick him. What
see
say
what
you,
you mean now.
audience?
We're not talking about vacuums just yet. Paul,
Yeah, I'm talking about vacuums. He's just obfuscating the point. We're talking about vacuums. You brought them up. You mentioned the word vacuum. Paul pointed out that when you remove atmospheric pressure to create that vacuum that you described, it inadvertently proves we have atmospheric gas pressure. Now, you're ignoring it and trying to rumpus me. But I'm closing your line because I want this to be heard by the audience, so that when you come back to this recording, it's absolutely clear that you've been smashed, that you cannot hold this position any longer. Because if you continue to hold a position when you've described what a vacuum is, it proves that you're here and disingenuous, just here to waste time, obfuscate and rumpus. So press 1 in the chat if you think at this point Spurs should be gotten rid of. No way a Global would have got away with this for 6 weeks.
Here's what I think, guys. There's other people on the panel, and it just seems like it's been the Nathan and the Spurs show for the past 7 weeks, and I think everybody's bored of this now.
I agree.
No, excuse. Yes,
I agree. We've been going on and on long enough. You know, we're just going around in circles.
Spurs or Rumpus,
you claim,
yeah, could be anyone.
Spurs, you claim we had religious services and that we were under some religious beliefs, and now we find out that you were tricked by mesh.
Right, mesh. Thank you, 10th man. By mesh, not the atmosphere.
So he's not going to concede it. Yeah, the atmosphere, right? The atmosphere does have pressure, Spurs. What you've waited is for an opportunity where someone else argues about your point. You've waited enough time to ignore me, and I'm going to reiterate it regardless of what anyone else says. I know everyone's bored of this.
Schemo is now currently in the mode where he's going to be fishing for the final victory moment that he can keep in his mind.
Never going to get it.
Ignore us all and walk away.
Never going to get it.
Agreed. I was tricked by a mesh. I thought they were talking about atmospheric pressure. No.
Oh, right. Well, you were just tricked. You just fell victim to a trick by someone else. That's not our problem. That's just you being extremely foolish. Now, moving past you getting fooled by a mesh, not us, I'll add, you, Spurs. You getting fooled by a mesh isn't the issue here. The issue pointed out by Paul when you said vacuum was that in order to have that lower pressure, you inadvertently proved there is atmospheric pressure.
No, that's not what I did.
Yes, you did. Because in order to have that lower pressure system, the vacuum, after, say, burning the oxygen in the air inside a sealed environment, you lower the pressure. You can lower it to almost vacuum levels, and in doing so you inadvertently prove there is atmospheric pressure, because you can't have a lower than no pressure. As I pointed out earlier, you can't go into minus figures. It's either less or none, and not minus figures.
Yeah, no, let's not talk anymore, Spurs. You just keep trying to bring it back to this same pressure thing.
Move on. Let's move
I'm
on.
absolutely sure of it.
I've had enough of this.
This is what's killing this show.
Yeah.
Right now is this argument.
It's
right
killing
now.
the flat Earth. I agree. Let's get back to flat Earth.
Spurs. The very fact that a vacuum can exist, that we can create a vacuum, proves the fact that you're saying that gas pressure doesn't exist. We've told you this from the very first day that you started this, Spurs. Come on, man.
We'll have it on Discord, Chocolate, but now we're killing the flat Earth. We need to move on. The most important thing right now.
Oh my God!
You're killing you. No, I agree, Spurs.
Look at you.
We'll move on. We just need to hear you concede that by creating a vacuum, you prove there is atmospheric gas pressure. We just need to hear that concession from you.
No, Ranty's right, because this will go on for the next half an hour, right?
Yes, it will if you don't concede. That's what you're being asked to do. In the face of being proved wrong with vacuums, the lower pressure systems, that's what we need you to concede for this not to continue for another half an hour. You to have some humility. You to accept some shame. You to concede you were wrong. We do have atmospheric gas pressure. You are incorrect, Spurs. Your no pressure tour is just you making a fool of yourself.
No, I'm begging the question for you.
In all honesty, Spurs, even on Friday when you were on the Friday night fights, the flat earthers and the globers both agreed that there's gas pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. You brought in Right the Hand to back you up. He doesn't even back you on this point. He believes that gas pressure is a thing. He might not believe how it's measured and the barometer is arbitrary, whatever, but he accepts that gas pressure is a thing.
Right.
You are the only one who is saying that we don't have atmospheric pressure.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Right now, I'm the only one who's asking that question. How have you derived 14.7? And
not how we've derived 14.7. That's not the question you're asking. You're asking how we can prove we have atmospheric gas pressure. That's not the claim you're making. You just dance around different claims. How do we prove that gas pressure is holding in the water? Oh, it's really mesh. I had a little gotcha waiting for you that you didn't take. It just ended up looking like you were foolish and you were fooled because we wouldn't let you make your little gotcha and your false equivalents. Now we're at the point where you've described vacuums, and the only way to achieve that lower pressure system is removal of the existing atmospheric pressure. And we need you to concede this without talking through me, which is what you're doing now. You're talking through me. I'm now at the end of that point that you brought up and Paul demolished you on. You need to concede you were wrong.
So, in a container, yes. Outside the container, you can't...
Yes, outside a container, yes. And if you remove the pressure outside of a container, you can create a vacuum, like you described, Spurs. You're not having any humility. You're doubling down and tripling down, you little weasel. Now, I'm tired of this. I've had it for 6 weeks. I'm going to get my concession, right? You, by bringing up vacuums, proved the atmosphere has pressure. You need to now concede you were wrong with your no pressure tour, because you are wrong. The atmosphere does have pressure.
Has less pressure, Nathan. The container, not the atmosphere.
He's just a weasel, right? At this point, Spurs, you're getting dangerously close to never being welcome here again. If you are like the fundies, yeah, and you simply can't concede when you're wrong and have no humility, then I don't like dealing with people like you.
Right. Well, let's just not talk about it. Let's just...
No, you just concede you've wasted 7 weeks of everybody's time by going on and on about a lack of pressure in the atmosphere. Totally and utterly incorrect. There is atmospheric pressure, as proven by your description of removing it to create a vacuum. That point Spurs, you're talking through me. Spurs! You're getting dangerously close to never being welcome back, Spurs, because you're being a fundy and you're having no shame or humility. You are clearly wrong. Clearly, by your own example with Spurs! Spurs! You are clearly incorrect. Do not talk through me again. I will summarise your incorrect position without you interrupting me, Spurs. You are fundamentally wrong, and you're bringing up of a vacuum, a lower pressure system, lower than the existing pressure we already have, proves beyond any doubt that there is existing atmospheric pressure. As a result of this merry dance you have taken us on, wasting everybody's time in the audience, everybody's time on the panel, my time, you must concede your mistake.
And apologize.
No, he doesn't have to apologise, he simply must concede he's wrong, which he is.
So you're saying if I don't agree, you're not going to be my friend?
Not an agree-disagree situation. By the very nature of your example of a vacuum, reduced pressure proves beyond any reasonable doubt that there is pre-existing gas pressure in the atmosphere.
To you?
No, to anybody with a brain.
Time to move on, Spurs.
Yeah, just move on. Agree to disagree.
No, not agree to disagree. That's what I'm saying I will not do. I don't agree to disagree after 7 weeks of pissing around with this subject with you, Spurs. You must concede, as is clearly obvious to everybody in the audience, everybody in the panel, anybody with a brain, that you are wrong. And you must concede this, or you're not welcome back here.
It's just a few people who agree with you.
You people. You are wrong. And you will concede it before this show is out, or you will never be welcome back.
Well, I disagree, don't I?
No, you can't disagree in the face of the example. The example being you bringing up a vacuum. The lower pressure of the vacuum proving beyond any reasonable doubt that there was pre-existing gas pressure. Your failure to concede this demonstrates a total lack of humility. You're not somebody I am willing to deal with if that is the case. Because all you will ever do in the future, having demonstrated that you cannot concede, is waste our time here. So if you can't concede you're wrong, you will not be welcome back. Everybody's clear that this isn't just your freedom to challenge. You're wrong.
Yeah, to you.
Not to me. Not to me. Your own example proves beyond doubt we have atmospheric gas pressure. You couldn't create a lower pressure if you didn't have pressure in the first place. The fact that you won't concede this makes me never want to go through this 7 weeks of hell again, because you won't concede at the end of it should you be wrong in the future. Everybody's perfectly well aware that you're wrong, but you won't concede.
Right. So, like I said, we have a difference of opinion.
No, you're in denial, and we're sick of it.
View. We should move on to something else and just agree.
Spurs. The problem with this moving on shit is you seriously have been on this show, coming on here every day for the past, I don't know, month and a half,
7
whatever
weeks.
it is.
Six and a half
with the
weeks.
same points. And
Yeah.
the thing that you just conceded to proves your entire argument is wrong. And you won't admit it. You just keep going right back to, oh, it's just fake. It's just fake. What is wrong with you, Spurs?
Would you like to discuss it, Chocolate? Or do you want to agree to disagree?
Spurs, have we not been discussing this every day for the past month and a half?
What I've just said, would you like to discuss? Or would you like to agree to disagree?
We want you to affirm what we're talking
what is
about
this
and
we
stop
want?
red herring us with
What is
everything.
What is this we want?
Do you believe that such a thing as a vacuum? Spurs. Do you believe that there such a thing as a vacuum can be created?
Insane territory.
What is this we?
He literally wants to waste another 7 weeks. That's the situation we face ourselves in, which is why I'm taking a very hard line here and asking him to concede or never come back. Because in this instance, having wasted 7 weeks, and he's like, well, I'm just happy to agree to disagree. What, so you can come back and waste another 7 weeks? I'm not prepared to let that happen. This is where I'm drawing a line in the sand, Spurs. So this is your opportunity. But based on the 7 weeks you've already wasted, yeah, I'm prepared to cut all ties because you can't concede. So you'll just come back and continually waste more time.
Very simple, isn't it?
Spurs, do you believe that a vacuum can be created?
Just said I want to talk about what a vacuum is. It causes me too much pressure.
We've all said that. We've all repeatedly said we don't want to talk about it because it's wrong. And we all understood many weeks ago how wrong it was. You've continued to talk about it for 6.5 weeks.
Yeah, because I'm asking a question.
Yeah, and you've asked it for 6.5 weeks. Now we've got an answer to the question. There's definitely pressure because you couldn't reduce it if it wasn't already there.
In a container,
it doesn't matter. The container's the reduced pressure. In the container, in the vacuum example you raised, there is a reduced pressure in the container. What's outside the pressure then, Spurs? What's outside that reduced pressure? Oh, gas. Yeah? The existing gas that was there already at pressure.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah, why does it abhor a vacuum? Yeah? Because it's trying to fill it. Because that's what pressure does.
You can't make a vacuum in nature. What are you talking about?
Right, guys, I'm off. See you later, everyone.
Bye.
This is it, man. Killing the show. That's all Spurs wants to do. That's why
You want to carry this on? I say move on.
I'm telling you, Spurs.
Flat Earth.
Either you concede you're wrong at the end, or you can have this argument elsewhere, because you won't be having it on the show after today. When it gets to 3 p.m, if you haven't conceded, I'll kick you. The after show will start, and we'll maybe eulogise about the good old times with Spurs when he was allowed on the show to waste 6.5 weeks and not concede he's wrong when he is clearly wrong.
Say there's no God. Say there's no God. There's no God.
That's a red herring. So he's just going to red herring the crap out of us. He's never going to concede. He's only going to red herring and obfuscate. And if I don't kick him and say he can't come back, we will never, ever, ever, ever hear the end of this, because he will not concede.
Concede what? Your belief. To your
Concede
belief.
what? Let me explain it to you, Spurs. Let's see how well I get on before you interrupt me. In order to... It took me about 2 seconds before he interrupted me. He's basically now become intolerable. He's asked me to explain it to him. I started 2 seconds after I started. He started talking. I'm just going to kick him. I'm sorry, Spurs. You're just not welcome here anymore. You've wasted too much of our time.
You've destroyed your own art, Spurs. Do you not understand that?
In a container, chocolate. You lower the pressure.
He
Outside.
doesn't want
how do you
to.
lower the
He
pressure?
doesn't want to.
You're not in
He
a
wants his
container.
playing ground. He thought he found a new
Regardless
playing
of
ground.
if inside the
he's not ready to
container
give it
or
up.
outside the container, there's still pressure being created, right?
Outside the container, no. How are you doing that?
How do I kick him in
Is
the
there
new Hangouts?
is there pressure outside of the
Oh
container?
god, I want to kick
Not
him, but I
outside,
can't.
inside
I'm
the
stuck with him.
container.
Help! How do I get rid of him?
Oh my god.
I can't. There's no eject
know.
button.
No.
Someone needs to
you
eject him
okay,
from the
well,
back
look, you don't
chat.
have to kick me. I mean, again, you don't have to talk about actual pleasure. You can have your.
Oh, shut up, Spurs. If somebody can hear me, please can you eject Spurs if you have the back chat open, please? I'm sick of hearing him. Please eject him. This is the end of his stay here.
Leave.
He's rumpusing the entire hangout, and I can't kick him out. So can someone kick him from the back chat, please?
I'm trying, but
Good. He's
it's
gone.
not working for
Good.
me anymore.
He's dropped or he's gone. Either way, you won't be welcome back, Spurs. That's disgusting.
You might want to
Behaviour's
remove him from Master
outrageous.
B so he can't do the hangout.
That's the longest we've spent on any single subject, I think, beyond Isle of Man.
How long did I take to try to defend gravity?
Less than that.
I'm sure.
There's a difference. No, right. I'm going to qualify that, right? Out of that shit came roses. So I've got goosebumps just saying this, right, Arwin? Relative density disequilibrium. Beautiful. That is the rose that sprouted from that horse manure. That horrible section of Flat Earth debate when we're arguing with Arwin about gravity. And Arwin's clever. He's one of the smartest people here. So he knows what he's talking about. And once the wires of our cognition were changed through that argument with Arwin, we now have a really concise way of describing what happens. People force things out of equilibrium. Well, what's that? Disequilibrium. Well, relative density is the thing that's occurring in terms of the direction or vector that you're going to achieve, depending on the medium and the density of the item that's being moved out of equilibrium. Relative density disequilibrium. That's what Arwin has produced. What are we going to say we've got to show for the last 6.5 weeks with Spurs? Has anybody got anything from this whatsoever? Be honest.
Well,
I have one thing.
You go first.
That's the most disingenuous flat earther I've ever seen.
What?
This is the most disingenuous flat earther who's ever seen. No, I've met. Well, we've had David Dallas on the panel several times.
Well, also it still does show that there's still that equilibrium thing is still in play, because me and Tenth Man were talking about it over the weekend, and the body itself is designed to live in an anatomy called homeostasis. You can't have too much of one direction or the other. So ultimately, it's still the equilibrium factor, because even a vacuum, you're pulling more, you're pushing it out of equilibrium, and the vacuum wants to seek that again. And even hyperbaric chambers, which actually increase the pressure to force oxygen deeper into the cells, it's the same principle. So I think, if anything, we're still back to equilibrium again. It's just showing it a different way.
Why are you still talking about pressure pull? I thought you wanted to talk about something else.
Kick him. Somebody kick him out. Spurs, you're not welcome.
Yeah, but I'm asking, why are you still talking about
We're
pressure?
unpacking your nonsense that we've talked about for 6 weeks. We just don't want you here to continually assert the nonsense we've deconstructed over the last 7 weeks without any benefit.
You want to talk about pressure
without any benefit to anybody, as he talks through why we are discussing it on my show that I've told him he's not welcome on anymore because of his total lack of humility. So Spurs isn't welcome in here anymore. In case anybody wants to know why, they can reference show 934 and find out why. Because after 6.5 weeks, there's no benefit. Unlike when Arwin argues about things, and there is definitely a benefit at the end of it. This hasn't benefited anybody. You are still in your ignorance as well.
It's benefited me, hasn't it? I asked the question, how do we derive...
That's what I'm saying. It hasn't even benefited you because you're not prepared to concede in the face of being blatantly wrong. So it doesn't benefit us. It's been a waste of time.
Spurs.
And it doesn't benefit you. It's been a complete waste of time for absolutely all parties involved, and you want to continue. That's why I'm saying you're not welcome.
Yes, it's after 6
Can I answer
weeks,
that question about the 14.7?
do we have an answer of how we derive 14.7? No, we just have you saying, just add it on, it's arbitrary, just make it up, do whatever you like. Doesn't matter, does it? It's there, it's there. What's there, and how did you get
a question for you.
14.7, Nathan?
Hey, Jose.
I don't want to answer it, I don't know. It's just there.
I'll go on Discord and Paul, who both want to ask a question. All I can hear is Spurs. Hello, Jose.
Spurs.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Go
all I
on,
was gonna-
Paul.
all I was going to say is about the 14.7 psi. Basically, what they've done, they've taken a vacuum chamber, they've taken a gauge, they put it, or a barometer, put it in a vacuum chamber and removed all the air, and they determined an average. Once they removed it, put the barometer back into the atmosphere, they derived the 14.7 psi relative to a vacuum.
Right, who is they? Have you done this? Have
I
you
haven't.
observed?
I read this.
Isn't
I've read
it
this. I haven't, can't find the citation.
Yeah, I've
I'm
read
just
my
saying that's
Bible,
how they've
Paul.
done
Can
it.
you demonstrate this? After 6 weeks, you've read a book. After 6 weeks, Paul, you've read a book. You could have read the Bible and had more information from scriptures. Now you've read a book. You've had no demonstrations to show how you
Look at
measure
this.
14.7.
Someone kick him out. I have to figure out. I didn't realise there was no eject button. Otherwise, I'd have kicked him by now. If anybody's in the back chat, please
but
kick
asking a
Spurs out of the
question.
conversation. I don't want him here anymore. I'm sick of it.
Because I'm asking you a question, the same question you ask
Okay,
all
that's
Earth
the
every
same-
day. Any
Spurs,
evidence
it's
of a
just that
previous
you're not being genuine about this, bro. That's the problem.
By asking a question, Chocolate.
Yeah.
Well,
That would be 6.5 weeks.
there are things you ask, you're answered, and then you make concessions, but you don't want to concede, right? Very things that you say yourself disprove
Why-
your own argument,
Why
but
are you a
you
flat
then
earther?
don't,
Yeah, but why are you a flat earther? What's the reason?
because I don't live on a spinning ball.
How do you know?
Because there's no proof that we live on a spinning ball.
Right.
Spurs.
Look at it, change the
Why are you
subject
trying
by
to change the subject?
Spurs,
now?
I'm
We're
not
talking
doing
about
this.
you
It's the same
and this
topic.
gas
Same-
pressure thing.
The same reason. You are a flat earther because
Guys.
there's no proof of a ball. Now, I'm asking the question, what proof of pressure is there?
Everybody else.
So, Chocolate, if I were to ask you, what proof is there of atmospheric pressure? You would say,
for 6.5 weeks.
what's the proof after 6 weeks?
Yeah, is it nice, Spurs? Talking over everybody.
You're
So you see,
ruining the
Chocolate, that's
hangout
the
here.
point. You're a
You're
flat
no
earther
longer
because
welcome,
there's no
and you're
proof
wrong
of
to
a
stop
ball.
everyone
Please
trying
stop.
to reclaim
Somebody gonna kick
everything.
him.
You're being a total asshole here. Stop it.
Absolutely.
Go away.
The Chocolate, it's very simple. You're a flat earther because
Oh
there's
my
no
God.
proof.
Why isn't anybody kicking him?
He's literally
This
calling us
is his
now.
plan.
Why isn't anybody kicking him out
Spurs,
then?
I have a real problem
Kick him
with people
out.
being
Please, kick
not being
Spurs.
honest.
I can't.
Okay.
It's not working. I can't open a back panel.
I can't either. What's going on? Spurs has got an
They changed
invisible
it.
force
They
field
changed
around
it.
him.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it on my phone. It won't let me.
I mean, I'm going soon. I'm not hanging around. I'm just.
Yeah, no. We want you to go
just leave.
now.
Just
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
now.
just establish the fact that we don't
Go
have any
away.
evidence. Or
Goodbye,
proof.
Go away.
Please
Just
don't
leave
come
now.
back again.
But we can't kick him out. We're stuck with him.
Nightmare.
Spurs, I have a question for you. So whenever every day
Nigga. Nigga is a term used in.
What's
Great.
going on here?
I'm being trolled by the Discord server.
I go down the elevator, okay, my ears pop on the way down. Are you saying that's because I am in a container in the elevator? Is that what you're saying? Because there is a pressure. Are you saying that's only caused by the elevator?
Really?
But
Is
your
it
ears
airtight?
popping. Ear
Is
popping.
it airtight?
It's just.
It's not
yeah,
airtight. It's not airtight.
Right. So it's still in connection with the container of the atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what
So
I'm
then,
asking
if you
Spurs. Like
change
my
the
ears
height
pop.
there, yeah, you
on
may
the
be
way
subjected
down.
to pressure change because there is the gradient.
It is a pressure
My
change.
my,
Go up a
my
mountain.
question is the temperature changing in that elevator while the pressure is changing?
Of course.
Sure, there is temperature control. Though.
Of course,
I still want to know where the.
I didn't ask you, Spurs. I asked the guy in the elevator. While the pressure is
Yeah,
changing,
probably.
is that temperature changing
I
too?
mean, I don't.
Because as far as I
feel
know,
it, but
elevators are
I
climate controlled, right?
Right, they are, and so is the building.
Right.
Finish,
So
you're
it's
not
very
grounding.
possible that the pressure changed without the temperature being changed, right?
Yeah, I did. I drowned in air.
Right.
Oh,
That'd be a great experiment if you could show that the temperature was
Stop it!
Yeah, we don't care about
Stop
proving
it.
anything.
Yeah, I
to
don't
you
care.
anymore.
Wait.
We don't
So
care. You don't listen.
That would be a
Wait,
fantastic
I
experiment.
asked the question to Spurs. Okay, I didn't ask it to, even though those were all good responses. I asked a question to Spurs. He said it would be a good experiment. This whole building is temperature controlled.
Yeah.
All the time. Okay, so are you saying that the pop in my ears is not due to pressure?
Well, again, yeah, and of course, if you're in a container, temperature and pressure are linked. Yes.
It's the water vapor.
No,
But
no, no.
we're
Okay,
looking at the
not
cause of
what
your
you're
ear
talking
popping,
about. Wait. What you're talking about is a container that is sealed or not sealed, because an elevator is not sealed.
Well, if it's a container, there's going to be a certain amount of pressure, right? Of course, they will try to escape, but there will be a certain amount of pressure within
What will
that
try to
container.
escape? What will
Nathan,
try to
maybe you
escape?
need to start a
Spurs?
new panel.
What will...
start a new panel.
Hold on.
Start a new one.
Guys, hold
Yeah,
on.
drop Spurs.
Spurs just said it will try to escape. What will try to escape?
Well, if it's not sealed, then
What will try to escape?
Well, if he moves up and down,
what will try to escape?
The air.
Oh, the air.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that creates pressure. Yeah, that's right, Spurs. We definitely have it, and it definitely produces pressure. Again, this argument's been smashed 6 ways from Sunday for 6.5 weeks. Why do you want to do this?
You don't hear the full response, do you?
We're now asking you a different question, Spurs.
If you only hear half the response, you only have half the understanding, right?
Spurs, why are you doing this?
Right, if the elevator's not moving, there will be
No, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I mean, why, given that this argument's been smashed, Spurs, you just keep talking. That's not the question being asked. Why, given that this has been smashed 6 ways from Sunday, are you continuing to do it? Why are you continuing to raise questions? Your argument's been
You're not
demolished.
getting a full response, Nathan, are you?
Because he's a troll.
In 6.5 weeks, we haven't heard the full response.
Because, if I was wrong, every question I asked should be answered and smashed.
It is being. That's what's happening. We're arguing with you. We answer your question. We demolish your point. And then you refuse to concede.
No, you let me get half a point in, and then you interrupt and say, "Oh, I've smashed your point," when you've heard half a story.
You overtalked everybody for 6 weeks. Who interrupted you?
You can't destroy an argument, Nathan, by hearing half of the story, can you?
Spurs, do you understand again what the problem is here? Like the guy that I don't know who was talking, he just gave you an example of the pressure in the elevator changing without the temperature changing.
Yeah,
okay.
that would be great. That's fantastic, Chocolate.
All right, so that proves not only that temperature is not what caused the air pressure to change, but that there's air pressure in the first place.
Yeah.
Spurs, come on.
I've just said to you that
Just
would be
think
great.
already, because I like you, bro. I don't want you to get kicked off the show for no damn reason, just for not accepting shit.
Chocolate, I'm saying that would be great. That would be great if he could demonstrate this claim and show that the temperature was constant.
Stop the madness.
It would be normal.
Okay, listen. That's the problem. We can't kick him out. No one's got an eject button on him. Don't know how he's doing it.
So you always make claims without substantiating them, or you just question to obfuscate. So what you need to do is go out there and do what you're talking about. So if there really isn't gas pressure if there really isn't pressure outside of the container of the elevator or whatever we're talking about, you need to go do that. If there really isn't atmospheric pressure, you need to go figure that out and show it to us. Because if you don't, you're just obfuscating the whole conversation. So go demonstrate it.
I need to demonstrate your claim.
Just stop there for a sec.
No. That's not my claim. That's your claim. You're saying there's no gas pressure.
Yeah, do you see gas pressure?
If you have a car tire. If you have a car
Hey,
tire and you
gas
drive
pressure.
around
Why did you come up with the word gas pressure? What made you think?
Hey, before you close out, I want to do a shameless plug.
the
I don't
heck
know
is going
what the
on?
hell is going on here, man.
John just joined the call over the rumpusing and said through the rumpusing, "Hey, before you finish, I just want to do a shameless plug." Go ahead, shamelessly plug away. That's your cue. I love it. Asks for a moment to plug. I open the airwaves. Silence.
I'm sorry, man. I was on mute.
Click.
All right. Can I share my screen? Is Jose still here?
Yeah, Jose is still here. Does he need to see the screen that you're about to present? Because if so, I need to press a few buttons.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me a second. I think we're just about there. Just give me another second and I'll get it to the audience. Okay, go ahead.
So, tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. US Central Time, it's Jose gonna star on my show along with McToon and Sean Hufford. So that's a shameless plug for tomorrow, another toe tag. And then this week, Saturday, Ball Busters on the Quantum Eraser channel. Gravity. Be there, be sphere.
Be here or be sphere. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, unfortunately, this is where we bid you farewell. However, if you want to watch the continuation of this conversation, then you need to click on the info box and go and subscribe to my second channel, which is Nathan Oakley. If you are watching on Nathan Oakley, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
But I say I'm really busy at home today. I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff. Wake up early. So no show. I said let me jump in because I thought Nathan was gonna stop the show earlier. I said I want to be in the background and listen to Chemo destroy one more. That's hilarious.
Yep. I hear you.
Did you say destroy or destroyed?
Destroy. He have destroyed so many hangouts in different places on pressure, and he continues going around.
He just gets in and leaves a giant, stinky, rotting red herring mess.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a handful of people that destroy hangouts. Pisha is
not
one
for
of them.
nothing.
Pisha destroy every hangout. Now Chemo, there's a few more that are just out of control. It's funny.
Yeah, it's the chemo virus spreading.
Yeah, Spurs wants to obfuscate any resemblance of, truth or getting towards that type of information, I think.
Enough of Chemo, more about me. No, just kidding. No, you know what? I was doing some research yesterday, and I came across an old video from the 40s of Albert Einstein, right? And the theory of relativity. This is good. So it was like, I don't know, 18 minutes video, and I scrolled like halfway. I listened for a little bit, met, and then it was a silent movie. They were presenting just diagrams and words, like quotes and stuff from him. So in one part, I stopped and I started reading. He said, and Einstein proposed relativity, that there's not only three dimensions on Earth. He said, there's not only up, down, right, and left. And then like the page scrolls And in the other one, say, Einstein proposes a fourth dimension. This will be also sooner or later. This is the time dimension. And then the page scrolls, and this is the good. It said, this is where, I'm going to paraphrase, this is where your fantasies and your dreams come true. And then I go like, what? And then the other page go like, this is where everybody can imagine, conceptualize, and go anywhere you want just using your imagination. And that resonated with me. And that was the only thing I saw. It was really late last night. I saved the video. I'm going to watch that shit like in content to see, because it is very telling on the way they proposed that back in the day in the 40s. And now I haven't seen that in the new video, in a new way of explaining the fourth dimension, but that was so dumbed down and simple. Like 3 dimensions is what we experience, and the fourth dimension is this imaginary world of time, of sooner or later, where you can do whatever you want. And just interesting shit.
I think first
Yeah,
is in
just
fourth
made up,
dimension.
just made up stuff. That's all.
It gets
In the
covered plenty.
1940s, what did he talk about?
We cover it plenty. So the geometry of that medium you're describing, Jose, is pseudo-Riemannian four space, length, breadth, depth, and time. Yeah, pseudo.
Yeah.
Made up. We also call it bending of a conceptual medium. That's what we're talking about.
And there's no air pressure there.
But isn't the best part
think,
though?
Yeah, I understand.
Isn't the best part,
now from
Jose,
this
is
point
that
of
it
view-
all
go ahead.
comes from imagination?
Yeah, we compare it to
Imagination.
Narnia. We juxtapose it with Narnia.
You know what, Nathan? It sounds like the Akashic Records or something.
No, that's not how that works at all.
Oh, how does it work?
The Akashic record is not some physical extension. You know,
No, I'm just saying, like
dimensionality
being
and the
able to
spirit realm. That's
access
just
all
totally
different types
different.
of all different times and different things like that.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I've been kind of in the last week or two. Some things I'm kind of stopping the borders of telling people what it is without them really knowing. I'm kind of calling them out in the double speaks and all this shit, and I fucking love it because they just like, yeah, they try to take a different approach. Like, all right, let's explain it well, because they go with this little, no, this is the story and you have to take it. I said, not really, because you're saying this in one breath and this in the other one. And I just want to look at this quote of the fourth dimension because I pay attention and I understand. And now just a quick dumb down you gave me with Narnia analogy. I understand from the flatter point of view, but I want to hear what their point of view is, because I'll call them out. I mean, is they are on ink on Einstein's word. This is on the imagination. I want to hear.
I can summarize it for you because I've watched George Musa. So what George Musa does is he explains how when that conceptual medium, the bit that we compare to Narnia, gets bent, it gives rise to a non-force, and they call that gravity. So you've got a bending conceptual medium, Narnia, and in that conceptual medium, where anything's possible, they bend the anything's possible medium to come up with a non-force called gravity. That's why it makes it quite plain that it's not a force. Yeah? Because it's come from a bending conceptual medium. So it's definitely not a force. But what the people on your side of the argument, Jose, like to do is they like to pretend that it is a force when it's come from a bending conceptual medium and definitely doesn't do anything.
I understand, yeah. On this
And
one, at least
even
the title of the video, I don't think it had gravity on it, but it was more about the theory of relativity, which it does have to do with gravity and the bending of space-time. But I want to hear the content if he's trying to explain gravity by invoking this fourth dimension and shit. I don't know. It is interesting.
It is very interesting.
But that's exactly what it is, though, Jose. They're telling you it's not a force. It's something happening in a different dimension, and it's affecting this dimension. It's literally what they're telling you is gravity. All right.
In this
so
conversation
it's nonsense, man.
with Jose, right? We've had 5-10 minutes tops with this conversation with Jose, and already I feel the audience's understanding of this progressing as we have this conversation. Unlike the last 6.5 weeks, everyone's got more stupid.
Shout out to Kimo, under pressure.
Shout out to Kraken.
No,
Kimo, I'm really expecting of you bringing one day a demonstration, something that you have done yourself. You always invoke demonstrations. Can you demonstrate that? But as for today, in anywhere, I haven't seen you bring a demonstration that you have done yourself. You have found some videos on YouTube, some balloons and some other crap that you want to interpret a certain way. But as for demonstration, you have presented Jack, Kimo. So for real, man, keep your shit straight, man.
Gotta agree with Jose here.
He's probably not even here. He'll come back and tell us how he hasn't listened to a word of this in 5
I'm
minutes.
listening. I'm right here. I mean, again, for me, I'm asking a very simple question. How did you derive 14.7? You're saying it doesn't matter. There is pressure, but you don't feel it. You don't sense it, but you know there's pressure. Why? Just because?
I think, Kimo, I think you went past this layer of you propose an idea, atmospheric pressure is non-existent. You already passed this phase. Now is the part where you have to demonstrate it. You have to do something, demonstrate it, and then propose your idea. There's no atmospheric pressure because of this and that. I have done this, just do something. You don't have to be scientific. You don't have to follow the scientific method. Just propose the idea with a demonstration that you have done yourself, which I haven't seen any yet.
I hear what you're saying, but it's not my claim. Just like the globe, I don't have to prove that we live in a spin.
Wow, you hypocrite!
I don't have to prove we live in a spin. I don't have to prove we live on a spinning ball, right? If you make the claim, Jose, that the Earth is turning, that the Earth is curving, you have to prove to me that I don't sense or feel. Now, if you say there's pressure, it's exactly the same. You have to prove to me that there's this pressure. It's very simple.
I thought Spurs was banned.
Let me. Can I voice my opinion? Because I've listened to the whole hangout and I've listened to most
can't
of it.
yet.
For
I thought. Wait a second. Somebody just resurrected him. I thought he was banned.
I couldn't kick him out. There's no eject button on him. I don't know how he's done it.
Hey, Arwen.
He can't do it either.
Hold on a second.
No one can kick him out.
No,
He's like immune to it.
And
at
the
this
kicking
moment.
function is gone.
Yeah, I tried a few times to kick him.
Everyone's been trying to kick him and he can't. He's unkickable at the minute.
Well,
I'll give up my rant.
I think you're not trying to kick me per se, because I'm a lovely guy. You guys are.
No, you're not. You're a wanker.
It's not per se me. It's the question that you're trying to kick that question
Right,
to the
Spurs.
curb. Like I said,
You're a
if
lovely
you don't
fella.
No, Spurs. It's your
Hijack.
refusal to understand this question that you're asking. That's why you've grown.
The thing
You've
Let me-
literally
let me-
driven everybody nuts with this.
let
Out
me
of
speak.
respect,
You've
Kimo will let
literally-
Sleeping Warrior speak now because Kimo, out of respect, is gonna mute himself and shut up and sit in the background and let the others chime in.
So I've tried to understand Spurs' position, and I've tried both ways, and I try and be as neutral as I can. And it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Spurs, when I've finished making my statements, but it seems to me that Spurs is saying that if we're in an open system and there is no gas pressure available without a container, then we must be observing somewhere else real world, but they're telling us it's gas pressure. In addition to that point, it seems that he's saying that if the vacuum of space, as we're told, doesn't exist, then it can't be 14.7 set from the vacuum of space if the medium doesn't exist. So it seems to me that Spurs is asking, where does the scale of 14.7 psi come from if the vacuum of space doesn't exist as we're told? That seems to be the question.
Yeah, correct.
No, it's not.
What it is, where have we derived 14.7? If there is pressure, how much? Because Nathan said there is pressure.
God.
Okay, I agree. There is pressure, but how much pressure is there? It doesn't matter. Any number. Pick a number. Well, no. Can we be scientific and have an actual measurement of how much pressure is pressing on me, on the tire, on you, on anything? And I'm getting berated for asking a very simple question.
You got that question answered.
Yeah, I got that question answered about when you first brought it up. I said barometer. The answer hasn't changed. Still the same. Thanks.
But again, that's not accepted because barometers are affected by the temperature.
So there's your claim. So there's your claim right there. To
Yep.
disprove atmospheric pressure by calling it temperature. Now prove it.
Prove what? That mercury is affected by temperature. You want me to prove that mercury is affected by temperature?
No, we just
No,
want you to
I'm-
leave.
I'm tired of you, Spurs.
So
You're
we're not gonna make a
disingenuous.
new panel.
Please
Because
make a
this
new
is not
panel.
gonna stop.
Like I
He's
said,
just gonna come back tomorrow and do the same
let's
thing.
kick the question. Jose, stop.
Let's kick you. Let's kick you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like I say,
It's not gonna work.
First, what is the
I asked
question? You don't have a question.
Well, let's just
I asked a simple question to Spurs to if you got any demonstration for your claims, and you don't have any, but you're dancing around it because you don't want to concede that you don't have a demonstration for your claim. That was all my question. You could say no, I don't have a demonstration. That's it. Mute yourself. You're done.
Yeah, I don't have any demonstration. I don't have any claims.
You do have a claim. Nathan asked you on the last show that you said my claim is there's no atmospheric pressure. That's what you said. When he asked you what do these videos prove, and he tried to hold you down, and Anthony and Ranty were saying, well, he has a right to make us answer his claim, and Nathan stood his ground and said, no, if he's making a claim, what is it? I want to know what these videos prove or disprove. And you said, I want to prove there's no atmospheric pressure. That is your claim. Now prove it.
Right, so that lady, that teacher, she used the mesh, not the atmosphere.
Oh, and how did we find out she used the mesh?
Well, what do you mean, how did you find it? That's what they do. They put a mesh
No,
there.
you didn't say that day. You went against Flatzoid and tried to do something by showing a still shot of one video, switched to the teacher using a mesh, which you didn't know until today.
Yeah.
And then you went to a third video that Nathan wouldn't let you show because you were driving everybody nuts by now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay, so these are magicians' tricks. These are magicians' tricks that you fell for. And I spent the whole weekend uncovering it. I asked Paul to mirror it because I don't have the PC to do it.
Yeah.
And then once discovered, you say, oh, well, then this. Instead of apologizing, instead of saying I didn't do my vetting, instead of, I jumped. All I did was a simple type on Google with this lady's name, and the student who took the video said she tricked us. You couldn't do that? You couldn't do that?
Yeah. I mean, all of that was known there, 10th man. But in order for you to know it's not the atmosphere, you need to do investigation. You need to do research, which you did.
I stepped out. No. I did research because the video you showed said the word trick on it. I said, why would they put the word trick on a science video? No, shut up.
Go on.
Your video said trick. I said, Spurs is showing a lady in a science class showing something, and she's called it a trick. Yeah. Well, maybe it is a trick. And then I just went down the rabbit hole, which you didn't do because you don't do research.
No, I knew that. That was for you to find out and say, look, it's
not.
Oh,
you knew that. You said they're putting the finger into the water, and it's not.
Fucking liar.
You are a liar.
Right, so now
Spurs, be serious. If you didn't know that, don't say you knew that, because then I'm gonna really consider you to be a fucking liar, man. I don't want to do that. Come on, man. Don't lie and say you knew it when you did it. Did you actually know?
Yes, he did know, and I want to back Spurs up in this. So that was Spurs gotcha, right? But the way he led you, which is why you're all now assuming he's lying, is because he was leading you so that he could have a got you. And the point being, though, his demonstration, of course, I'm still in the middle of a sentence, so Spurs has got to talk, hasn't he? Spurs. So, even though no one took the bait, he's still going to assert his gotcha. Oh, well, it's a mesh causing it, not the air pressure, which no one asserted because no one took the bait. So it doesn't disprove that we have atmospheric pressure. It's just a gotcha. Cheap trick, which Spurs used, and led the people, us, by saying when you press the water, which would be a lie if he knew the outcome. Yeah? So he's leading questions with a lie because he wants to get a gotcha in. Well, his gotcha doesn't prove we don't have atmospheric pressure. That's why I was so keen to find out what it proves or disproves. And it doesn't disprove atmospheric pressure.
Yeah, but the reason why the water stayed in wasn't because of...
Who cares? It's not disproving atmospheric pressure, which is your claim. So who cares?
These people here, 10th man, thought it was because of atmospheric pressure.
Nobody took your bait. You seem to be jumping the gun. Like people took your bait when we didn't. What they did was they went and researched the video before committing to a position. And they made it look like you didn't understand, even though you knew that you got a gotcha. But you just wouldn't tell anybody when I was asking you to qualify how it disproves gas pressure. So this has all backfired very badly for you, Spurs.
No, because he did think it was, which is why he researched it.
Oh, think. So you're divining his thoughts now, are you, Spurs? Like I say, looking very bad for you, considering your only defence is divining people's thoughts now.
No, he already thinks there's atmosphere.
Yeah, you keep telling us about what other people think, Spurs. Divining people's thoughts is not going to get out of this absolute train wreck that you've led us on for 6.5 weeks.
Yeah, and Lite at the end.
Let it
No,
go,
no,
Spurs.
in order to get to the truth, you have to research these things for yourself.
Yeah, and he did, and he researched, and he found out that it was obviously your misunderstanding about what was being demonstrated. In reality, you'd got a little gotcha. Once somebody committed to saying it was atmospheric pressure holding in the water, which nobody did, you'd say, well, it's not atmospheric pressure, therefore there is no atmospheric pressure. Ta-da! I disproved... No, that's shite.
The teacher and the student thought it was because of atmospheric pressure. That
Oh, really? Oh, well. So you're comparing us to a load of teenagers? Yeah, well, we did a bit better than they did, didn't we, Spurs?
Yeah, the point is that...
Yeah, the point is that we as adults went away and researched it and made you look silly, like you didn't understand the trick. So it backfired really badly, Spurs. Didn't prove that we don't have atmospheric pressure. Didn't prove your point. It backfired.
No, the point was those children were tricked.
Oh, those children. We're not those children. Are we, Spurs? Yeah, we are not those children. And as the video didn't get played while you were making your example, nobody got to see the children get fooled. Yeah, you didn't get to have your gotcha.
You're starting to sound like Cartman. Just refuses to give up. Yeah.
That shows, as an adult, you're not going to believe that water is held in by atmospheric pressure.
Oh, so now he's going to compare me to the children who were
Boris.
fooled.
Sorry.
What the hell?
That's the point. You're not going to believe that's been held in by the atmosphere.
Everything is the point. That's the point.
Nobody committed to that position.
The point.
Well, that is the point. If you believe that's the atmosphere...
Nobody committed to that position. You didn't get your gotcha. You're hanging on by your little fingernails, aren't you there, Spurs? Nobody committed to it. They did the sensible thing before committing to it and researched it and made you look like an ass.
Not at all. No.
Yeah, they made you on the live show look like you didn't know it was a mesh. That's what actually happened. They had the moment for you, making you look silly. Now you're saying, well, I knew all along, I just lied to you in the way I led you. That's what you did. So we now know that you're a piece of shit, that you're going to lead us down a blind alley just so you can have your little moment with your magic trick.
Yeah, at the time they didn't know that, did they? They had to...
Yeah, at the moment they didn't. So they didn't commit to a position they went and researched, unlike the children that you're now saying we thought like.
Exactly my point. No.
Yeah, your point being we thought like the children in your video when you had your moment. Oh, you didn't get to have it. Nobody would commit to the position.
That's the point. No one's going to admit to atmospheric pressure.
No, nobody would admit that atmospheric pressure was holding in that water in your magic trick.
Yeah, no one's going to believe that, are they?
Nobody committed to that position, unlike the children you thought we were in the example you made and are now comparing us to, even though we didn't commit to that position.
That's the very point. Research
Clinically
yeah, but even if we
delusional.
didn't
This is
commit to
going
that
to
position, Spurs, it
psychotic levels
doesn't
of delusion.
prove that atmospheric pressure is not a thing.
Yeah, we didn't get your gotcha moment. It didn't come. It seemed to come from Paul and 10th Man. Well, they got you.
No, they did what they were supposed to do, was research.
No, you were demanding we committed to the position the children committed to. Now you've misrepresented us like we took that position, which we did not, and you're divining our thoughts to do so.
Right, no one in their right mind would believe the atmosphere is holding that water up like that.
Oh, really? What about the children you just explained were like us, who did think exactly that? So this is just bullshit doublespeak. You tried to get a gotcha, you failed. Instead, you had your ass handed to you. And in your bumblings and blitherings, you started using examples that included vacuum chambers, proving beyond any reasonable doubt that the outside pressure beyond the vacuum you've created is at pressure.
No, that was a different experiment. That's
Could
what
I say something on the matter?
Vacuum within a container.
Why
And that will
are
create
we
Spurs.
continuing interacting with this clinically delusional person?
So the main
Spurs, the
that-
very
I'm so sick of
Spurs.
it. I can't believe they
Spurs.
keep on wiggling over those red herrings, expecting that he's gonna concede or do anything sensible at this point. Why
we
are we
eliminated
still
one
here
way of
talking with him?
verifying atmospheric pressure. That's the key here, Chocolate. We removed that water idea that the atmosphere is holding the water up, right? That would be nonsense. After you've researched that,
Nobody committed to that position. You keep holding us to task on a position we didn't take.
Yep, we know.
Could I say something on the matter?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Brian, if Spurs will let you.
Yeah, just before I start, I do believe in gas pressure. Just before we start, so just what I'm going to say before people jump down my throat. Do people realise the reason that wood? I'm going somewhere with this now. That why wood is less dense than metal?
Well, because the fibers are
Why is wood less dense than metal?
less packed together closely.
And there's air in between.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Now, when there is heat, wood expands. Okay, so the air molecules are expanding. The point I'm making is heat makes things expand, cold makes things contract.
Except water.
I don't think.
And that's same with a tire.
Except
That's same with a
water.
car tire. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Except water.
Sorry, I can't
Right?
hear you, Quantum Marisa.
Save for
Tire
water.
does the same
If you-
thing.
if-
Yeah, but I
Say for
understand
water.
that.
When water freezes,
we
it
got it.
expands. Correct.
Yes. Except water doesn't. But air expands. Air molecules expand with heat.
Yes.
And contract with cold. Yes. Would people agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. The point I'm making is the pressure that was in the atmosphere is coming from the air molecules pressing against each other more or less. So the more heat will mean more pressing against each other. The less heat, there'll be less pressing against each other. So maybe, I don't think Spurs is 100% correct, but the question of what is gas pressure, what we're told about gas pressure, about all these air molecules flying around the place at thousands of miles an hour and all this, that maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's just pretty simple like everything else is, that they're expanding and contracting and they're not flying around at thousands of miles an hour. That they're there and they do rise and all the rest of it, and they're created at ground level, and that's why there's a pressure gradient. But this thing about all these molecules bouncing around the place at thousands of miles an hour, maybe has nothing to do with that.
Okay, so whoever's got their mic wide open in Google, can you close your mic if you're not talking? You're causing horrendous audio issues. We heard most of that.
Yeah, you forgot to add in the volume.
That was just basically my
into
point, is that the gas pressure might be, besides what we're told is gas pressure might be just simply air molecules expanding against each other more.
Okay, so that happens.
Ranty was saying, sorry, you're going to say something, Nathan?
Yeah, I thought you'd done. Carry on.
I was just saying, even Ranty was saying the other day, Ranty made the point that when it's hotter, that the clouds are higher, and when it's colder, the clouds are lower. That makes total sense. That it's the air molecules that's pushing them up. And if there is so much wind, you'll find that the clouds, on a hot day, when there is so much wind, you'll find that the clouds dissipate.
I'm not.
Sorry?
Paul answered this when he talked about kinetic energy. Paul, get back on it and bring that part up again.
Yeah, basically that's the thing. I'm sitting here listening to you. When they bring up that balloon issue and the nitrogen, there's more kinetic energy with the heat outside the balloon than inside the balloon. So obviously the pressure is going to collapse the balloon that's outside the balloon. So I don't know if I any more simply to say it than that. We don't think about kinetic energy when we're talking about pressure. Most people in this discussion don't bring that up, but that's crucial to this discussion. Is that what you wanted to say, or is there more? Basically, heat is kinetic energy applied to a substance. That's all it is.
The other thing I wanted to just address quickly, Brian. Brian, isn't it?
Yeah.
You said expansion. Well, no. Gas behavior by its nature is that it will expand to fill the container that it is in. Now, that doesn't matter if the energy...
Yes, I agree with that.
Sure, but you're describing it as expansion. So if you increase the energy that's in those molecules, well, then they'll collide more often with the walls of the container. Well, that's an increase in pressure as a consequence of increasing the energy or heating them up, for the sake of argument. Well, that's not causing any greater or less expansion, but if you were to release them into a bigger container and they had more energy, that process would happen quicker, but it doesn't mean that it's anything to do with the expanding nature of it. That's always going to be the case, even if it was like, virtually not moving at all, at near absolute zero. That it wouldn't make any difference. It's still going to behave that way if it's gas at that level, at that temperature. Make sense?
Yes, it's the whole gas molecules bouncing around at ridiculous speeds thing that to me is not making enough sense. And when people speak about energy, I mean, what is energy? What is the energy? Is it gaining energy from heat? Is it losing energy from cold? Because when you're warm, you won't lose energy like you will when you're cold. When you're cold, you lose energy. I'm working off of as natural a base as I can.
Define what energy is.
Well, there's lots of different types, but I was going to ask you to define it specifically with kinetic energy, because that's the most relevant in this instance.
You want me to define?
No, I was talking to Paul. Sorry, I should have clarified. That was directed at Paul.
Okay.
Well, kinetic energy is the movement of an object, and an energy is basically the ability to do work. If I was going to make it simply, that's what I would say. If a molecule is moving faster, it has more kinetic energy than if it's moving slower, because it actually can induce more force upon a surface of something. Like me, I could throw a ball
I
really
understand
easily,
what you mean.
and it'll bounce off easily. But if I put more force behind it and speed it up, then there's more kinetic energy, and it's going to bounce back with more force.
Yeah, I understand that. I can't say that that's not correct, because I haven't been able to disprove that. And I don't really know where I'll start to say whether I could prove or disprove that. But I do believe that it's very possible that the expansion of the air molecules with heat would definitely, if you think about balloons, when balloons have more expansion, they bounce off each other, they move more. If you understand what I mean, there's more movement. When balloons are deflated more, a half inflated balloon won't move around like a full deflated balloon, if you understand what I mean.
Are we talking about the pressure inside the balloon causing it to bounce and move? Is that what you're talking about? I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, if you have two balloons and they're fully inflated and you bounce them off each other, they're going to make more movement in opposite directions than if they're half inflated. If you understand what I mean.
Well, I'm sorry, my little one's got this, but there's. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Watching Toy Story, and she's screaming me to get it off the commercials back on the video. Basically, the way I was thinking about this, I was thinking about this last week. There's a direct relationship between the volume and the pressure. So if you have infinite volume, you have less pressure. So it means actually there's virtually no pressure if there's infinite volume. So the lower the volume, the higher the pressure is going to be. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Why is that?
This is Boyle's law, right? So
right.
Pressure volume law. Why is that? Well, good question. It is what it is. It's a law. You can't really put this through the scientific method to establish the cause of it, but it's kind of explained within the law itself. It's self-explanatory.
Okay. And think of it. Well, I'm going to use an analogy. So remember, this is just an analogy. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Have you ever played racquetball before?
Yes, like a badminton or something like that.
No, racquetball. Racquetball is inside of a building, and it usually has.
Yeah.
You can actually have four. Like you could be in a completely square room, but when I hit the ball, it can hit multiple wall, multiple walls at
I know
once.
walls. I know what you mean.
If I put
Walls.
enough,
Yes. Yes.
if I hit enough kinetic energy into that racket, into that ball, it can hit potentially all four walls. But if I barely hit it, it might hit one wall and fall to the ground. If I take that same room and I reduce it, but I put the same amount of kinetic energy into that ball, it's going to bounce through. It could hit probably potentially all the walls in the room if there's enough kinetic energy in that ball.
Yes.
That's basically Boyle's law summed up in racquetball. So we got
Yeah, no,
molecules
I
of air
understand. I understand that. The analogy I would use for what I'm speaking about would be if you could imagine a room just like that, a big square room without any openings, contained, and you have loads and loads of balloons that are fully inflated, and you blow wind in there. Let's just say you blow air in there, and that causes them to move around and bounce off each other. And they're going to bounce off every wall. They're going to bounce off each other. But if they're all only half inflated, you won't get the same. If they're only half inflated, you won't get the same. You won't get the same movement within them. That was the point I was making. That the cold would deflate the air molecules, whereas the heat would inflate or expand. And what I was saying about the cloud thing, what I was elaborating on there is that when there isn't much wind and there's clouds on a warm day, the clouds dissipate. And I believe that it's because the air molecules, obviously, they're expanding, so they go up. The heat causes things to rise, so they go up and they dissipate the clouds. Do you understand where I'm coming from? I'm not really arguing with you. I'm not arguing about it. I'm just adding something in that people kind of don't really think about, but yet we see it happening all the time.
Can I give my analogy for Boyle's law? It's relatively brief.
Yes.
So you've got 100 people, and they're at a football stadium, and you let them all loose out in the football field, and what you've got is little meters attached to each person, and when they hit each other, it registers as a hit, one hit, yeah, and they all just walk around, and they very rarely ever even bump into each other at all. So you get very few registered hits, yeah. Now you take the same 100 people, and you funnel them into a very small conference room, yeah. Now, because they're in a much more confined space, they're far more likely to hit each other, so you get more registered hits.
Yeah.
That's equivalent to the gas being in a nice large container, therefore the pressure being lower, less hits registered, less PSI if you want to qualify it in that way. You reduce the size of the container and there's more hits registered, i.e. a greater pressure.
And one other thing along those same lines when it comes to gas, and John, if I get this wrong, you can tell me, but molecules are always in motion. There's always some kind of their movement they're always moving. They can't not stay still. That's why they can never truly reach absolute zero, because all molecules still move and vibrate because of the way I'm not sure how to describe it, but there's always movement when it comes to gases, no matter what. So there's always going to be some level of kinetic energy within a gas. So they're always going to be moving. So they can't stop moving. If that helps any. That's why they're going to keep expanding and keep moving until they hit something outside there to stop them from expanding and keep moving outward.
I absolutely agree with that, and the analogy you gave and the analogy Nathan gave, I absolutely agree with. I'm not really actually disagreeing with any of that. The point I'm making is what's making them move around in the way they do. I don't believe that they're moving around. When I say I don't believe, it's only a belief because I don't have proof that they're moving around at thousands of miles an hour.
I don't know what
I'm making.
Who says that they're moving around at thousands of miles an hour? You've said that a few times already, and I'm trying to understand who's telling you that.
Well, I looked online. It said gas molecules are moving around at thousands of miles an hour.
Where?
Well, it could be. It could be, but
no, where?
Yeah. Just where did I look? Online, like on Google.
If it's the atmosphere, it's one thing. If it's in a container, it's another thing.
Well, I'm only going. Look, I just asked Google about gas molecules some while back, and it said that they were moving around. I think it was something a ridiculous speed, 7,000 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm only going by what I read on Google, so I can't back that up or say it's right or wrong. The only point I was making is if things expand, air molecules expand, then they're closer together, and that will cause them to bounce more around each other, creating more energy, and obviously high pressure, because there's a lot more. They're bigger and they're bouncing off each other more, just like a full inflated or a half inflated balloon.
They're not creating.
I agree.
It's not more energy. That's incorrect. So
yeah, that's incorrect.
The air molecules are not creating energy by bouncing
not
off each other.
creating more energy. No. So when you reduce the size of the container, like in my stadium example, you put the people inside. It's not that they've suddenly got more energy. They've just the amount of contacts, the number of hits increases. That's the pressure. So you can see pressure.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But the same principle. Let's just try the analogy slightly different way. So you've got the same number of people. You've got 100 people, but they're in the football field. Then you set their asses on fire. Yeah, they run around as a result of that. Yeah, and they might hit each other more often.
The panic.
Well, yeah, they're panicking because they've got a little bit of string attached to them that's on fire. So they start running around and ultimately hit each other more often. Well, that would be as a consequence of an increase in energy. But by confining the space, you're not increasing the energy, you're just increasing the number of times they hit each other.
And so my air molecules hitting each other would not create energy.
Not an increase in energy if you get them closer together and they hit each other more often. No, it's not.
Increasing the pressure, but not the energy.
All you're doing is transferring energy. You're transferring from one location to another. You're not really creating it.
Well, look,
hold on. Maybe you're getting confused by the process that would be required to achieve that. So, in other words, let's say you've got a gas and you undergo expressing energy in order to compress the gas. That would require energy in order to make the gas do that. But you're not imparting more energy on the gas. There might also be a temperature change within the gas as a result of you closing down the size of the container. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've inputted any energy into the gas. You've just made them collide more often.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
So there's two different things at play. There's the process.
Go on, sorry, I touched you.
I was just going to say there's two different things at play. There's the process that actually would require energy in order to shrink down a container, crush it, for example. You know, if you've got your bottle and you put the lid on, it's at atmospheric pressure, and you try and crush it. Well, with a certain amount of inputted energy, you're gonna be able to achieve that. But then the increase in collisions with the container creates a higher pressure, which is going to try and make it reach equilibrium again, right? Force it back out again. But that's not because you've given the gas more energy, but you have increased the pressure by putting energy into it. So the two things are different, though.
Hey, I gotta get out of here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Jose.
John, if you got anything for me, you want to add home me or insult me really quick before I go, so I can go out of my day. It'd be cool.
No,
remember,
man,
Brian can talk for 2 hours.
I already did a shameless plug on my show. You're on tomorrow. You're the star.
Tone. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, thanks for over talking me. Yeah, you're the star of the show tomorrow. I have no ad homs for you. I had never had an ad hom for you to begin with.
Oh, thank you. So when you call me retard and all that stuff out of nowhere, was not at home.
Out of retard? No.
I see those messages. They're not out of nowhere. They're normally followed by quite a long example of how you've demonstrated yourself to be a retard, actually, Jose. I've read those messages.
But how about when he opened the statement, he said, Jose retard. And he ... And then he waved.
That does contradict my example.
Out of nowhere.
My example was to say that in the message feeds, it normally comes example, then you being called a retard. Yeah, on some of the videos, it starts with you being called a retard, and then that is qualified. Yeah, it's the other way around sometimes. But yeah, that's not an ad hom.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for playing.
Gotta get out of here.
Stay tuned tomorrow.
An ad
2
hom
o'clock
just before he
US
goes.
Central.
Oh, he's gone already. For just for the audience's benefit, an ad hom fallacy is where you attack the man instead of or in lieu of attacking the argument. Now, claiming that somebody is mentally held back, otherwise known as retarded, and then demonstrating how their cognition is such to demonstrate that they are mentally held back. That's definitely not an ad hom, especially when the demonstration is specifically about how they're held back, why they're held back, with an example of how they're held back mentally. That's an address to an argument, not an ad hominem. Just so that's clear.
Thank you. I'll be in the area all week.
Anybody else want to plug anything? No?
Ball
Can I ask another
busters.
question?
There you go, ahead. That is your moment.
Ball busters.
Just on the subject. Sorry.
This Saturday live on Quantum Eraser channel. Gravity. Be there.
Be
Quantum
here.
Eraser channel.
Be here.
Or
Be
be
here.
fair.
On the Quantum Eraser channel, be here or be sphere. So on the Quantum Eraser channel means be here, as in on the channel you've just mentioned. Be here or be sphere, as opposed to be there or be square. It's not that hard.
Just make like a tree
You
and get out of
realise,
here.
right? He hasn't even that's patented. That is, that's patented to me, and he's just nicked it and gets it wrong every time. It's an outrage. Anybody else want to plug anything?
Yeah, subscribe to Arwen.
Not going to plug his early bird show. Yeah, 1
Subscribe
p.m.
to
UK
Arwen.
time. Flat Earth Early Bird, ARWIJN, the Arwin channel. Out. Be here or be sphere.
No, he's not here.
I said on the Arwin channel. Be here or be sphere.
How can you be on the Arwen channel and be here if you're not on the Arwen channel?
Be here, as in the channel I've just mentioned.
That doesn't make any damn sense.
Does because I say
That's
so.
You don't have subject verb agreement.
Oh God, I'm going to get an English lesson now about this doesn't make sense.
No,
right?
you're not.
It's the
I
closest.
butcher it all the time.
It's the closest I can twist. Be here or be sphere when it's someone else. Look, just give me a little bit of what's the word? Humour me. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
when you're here, where are you when you're here? When you say be here, where are you?
The Arwin channel, if I'm talking about Arwin
No,
channel.
you're not.
Yeah, I am.
But he's not on the Arwen channel, but you can think of him as though he's on the Arwen channel.
Exactly. You can think of here as being the Arwin channel when I'm plugging the Arwin channel. Getting a good plug out of this argument, isn't he, Arwin? Doesn't gain a few subscribers out of this, I don't know what would.
And he's not even at his mic because you would have said something by now.
Oh, talking about subscribers. There's something,
Arwen.
there's
Hey,
something else.
Nathan, QE won't give you any latitude.
Latitude. That's the one. That's the word I was fishing for. Thank you, 10th man. Latitude. Give me a little latitude. Exactly.
He took you straight to the equator.
Oh, that's cheered me right up, 10th man. I hate it when I can't think of the right word, and that was exactly the word I was fishing for.
Right to the woodshed.
So, talking about subscribers, GeoShifter, shout out to him. He did an excellent video on. It's not necessarily flat Earth related, but he and I are geeky in similar ways, so I appreciated the video. But it was about security on your computers and sort of the history of how that's been violated, which I knew anyway. I'd interviewed Wakey, Mark Knight, probably back in 2015, and that was one of the main subjects we covered about the opening up of some of the securities to the people who own these operating systems. Things like your camera being able to be accessed. People may be aware of this since the Windows 10 days because it became overt and they put it into the tick boxes, but they've been doing it for ages anyway. I think it was 2006 that they started doing it. Whenever Windows 7 came out, that's when they first started putting these hooks in. Anyway, GeoShifter covered it in even more detail with a bit more of an up-to-date explanation and some sort of ways of getting around it with NUCs and various other things that you can use instead of the hardware that's built into your motherboard on a desktop PC or a network attached little dongle for a laptop. But he goes through all of this, explains some of the history of computing in general, so well worth checking out GeoShifter. But one of the things he mentioned was about the lack of growth that we will see in this subject. Now we, again, because it's overt, we know what's going on with YouTube and their lack of promotion for us. So as a result, the only way we grow as channels in this subject is by people sharing, saying to others outside of this community, hey, you should check this channel out. And that was kind of, I can't remember the phraseology that GeoShifter, get the name right, actually used, but it made me think, yeah, that's something I should be highlighting. Lots of others do, and I nod along when they say it, and I'm like, yeah. And I say share the show, but I don't make it overt why I'm saying it in every single intro and every single outro and during the show and in comments and all the rest of it. It's because that is the only way that we in this arena will now grow, if people share and say, look, you should subscribe to this person. Now, it's easier if I'm doing it for Arwin, so that's why I say go and subscribe to Arwin, because that's my version of it as a YouTuber, to encourage you, the audience, to actually do it and subscribe to Arwin and share his show to others outside of the community, more importantly. Now, that might sound terrible. More importantly, obviously everybody's welcome and everyone wants to, you want every single subscriber and every single audience member, but we are within a now closed community almost. Unless it's shared outside of the community will stay exactly as it is and ultimately stagnate, hence it being extremely important to actually share the show. Arwin's, Ranty's, mine, Jeranism's, Globebusters, Quantum Eraser, they all need sharing outside of our community, because if they don't, this is how it will remain. Size.
I thought you were going to talk about subscribers. Did he mention anything about that?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He was saying words to the effect of, YouTube don't put this out beyond my subscribers, which is true. That's who you will get. Now, obviously for you, Quantum Eraser, you've just had me and several other people within the community share your material amongst their subscribers. So it seems like, oh, great, well, you're rolling along with your growth. But it's not going to get necessarily promoted by YouTube. So you're in now a sort of closed off community where there's a virtual lid on the amount of growth that you can actually achieve. Now that we're not being cross-pollinated for the sake of ad revenue by YouTube. They realise people get hooked really quickly on conspiratorial type videos and will watch one after the other, and that's where they get their view time. But we all know the situation with our videos now. They're not getting promoted. It's the ABC, the BBC, the CBS. They're the ones at the top of the list if you search for this subject. We're on page 27. So ultimately speaking, the only way you get any leverage is if somebody shares your show with somebody who's not going to come across it by that means, because they won't come through it just by their homepage or subscriptions feeds or whatever else if they're not already subscribed.
Got it.
That was it. So yeah, share, subscribe, and make sure you share it outside of the community, hopefully. Stick it on Facebook. That's why I'm like every show. Share it on Facebook and Twitter. That's the only way to get it out to people who wouldn't necessarily come across this information. But it's now more critical than it ever was in 2014, 15, 16, 17, and halfway through 18. YouTube shared these videos. So you get natural growth. Now that's not the case. You get internal growth if you share it amongst other flat earth YouTubers. Well, that's not really gonna progress us or the subject particularly well. And I'm saying this now with the YouTube hat on. Obviously, I want my channel to grow.
Yeah, that's a good idea to state that. I'm going to start doing that too.
Okay. Can you share my screen, Nathan?
It's going to round out the show, but yes, okay.
And with that.
No, fine. Don't want to see my misery. If I can find my damn mouse. I can never find my pointer now. Got more resolution. Where the hell? Literally can't find my mouse, Spurs.
Okay. I just have a question. That was all.
Try next to your keyboard.
I think Paul might like this.
I don't mean the mouse. I mean the pointer. Okay, I found it. Right, go ahead.
The cursor is what you're looking for, Nathan.
I can see a billiard table. Go ahead.
Okay, if I can get through this. Paul, this is for you and anyone else who wants to answer this. So, we know objects in motion will stay in motion until another force acts on the object. So we have the ball, the blue ball, we hit the blue ball, it hits the table, it will come back because obviously this wall has stopped it and obviously reversed it. So let's imagine now we have the ball here and we're about to hit the ball and there's a vacuum here. And we turn the vacuum on just as the ball reaches here and the ball changes direction. Now, the question is, what force caused the ball to change direction?
First of all, what's the defined vacuum?
No, I don't know. I'm just saying we have what is called a vacuum that is.
We need to know what that is.
I don't know. I'm just asking you.
We need to know what that is in this example, Spurs. The reason we need to know is because when you say something like we turn a vacuum on, well, no, a vacuum would be, in my view, defined as a lack of any air pressure. And to achieve that, you'd need to maybe turn a compressor on.
Okay, but I'm just asking, I'm not looking for an argument. I'm just saying we know that objects in motion stay in motion till another force acts on it. Now we have an object that's going in one direction, and now it's changed direction because of what? What force, I'm asking, has changed the direction? That's what I'm asking. It's not difficult. I'm not trying to say gotcha. I just want to know, do we agree with objects in motion stay in motion and until another force acts on it, or does that not apply here? I'm just asking, what's the answer?
This looks very conspiracy cats.
So my question is, Paul, sorry, my question is, when the ball travels down the table, is it being pulled from this side or pushed from the left? Pulled from the right or pushed from the left? That's what I'm asking. That's what
Well, first of all, how many objects are on the right currently? How many objects do you have on the screen?
Oh no, that's just for illustration. It's just one ball. We've only got one ball. Yeah, just one ball. I'm just using this to be traveling from here, and then it changes direction here. That's what I'm asking. Yeah. So originally, without
if there's only one billiard ball in this table, and if you had sorry guys, she does this every time I try to do something. If you move that ball to the left, parallel with the wall to the right or the wall at the top, that ball will just bounce back and forth between the wall on the left and the right and not go towards the hole.
Okay, so you're saying that if there was a suction here.
No, I said nothing about suction. You asked me about that ball. There would be nothing if there's only that billiard ball, and that's all that's in this so-called table. That's all there is. Just that one billiard ball. That's it. You got one billiard ball, and it moves parallel to the top wall from left to right. It will bounce back and forth between the left and the right wall and not move towards that hole at all.
Okay. Okay, cool. Just asking your thoughts. Okay, so it wouldn't be affected by any suction, or I'm just saying, you're just saying it wouldn't be affected by this, whatever's going on here. This wouldn't be affected by it.
No, you said that's why it's important to define what a vacuum is. Define vacuum. I've actually got it on screen, by the way. I'm sharing it.
If that is supposed to be a vacuum of how gas works, then it wouldn't. There would be everything moving in the vicinity towards the hole, not just everything right down beneath it. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's why I was asked very specific questions. If there's multiple billiard balls on this table, and there's that hole, which you would say vacuum, and there's a lot of kinetic energy within those balls, they would bounce back and forth with each other, and a few would start escaping out that hole because of the kinetic energy, because of them bouncing against each other and against the wall. And eventually there would become an equilibrium between what's outside that hole and inside this table, eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But if that outside of that billiard table, it was open space for infinity, eventually the last billiard ball will go out that hole and there would be no pressure whatsoever.
Okay, so one more question. Say this ball, say the vacuum comes out to this area, the end of the black area, and the ball is stuck here now. We see the ball stuck. Is the ball being pulled in, or is it being pushed in from an outside force?
Define vacuum.
No. I'm saying if the ball is stuck, what is the cause? It's not glue.
It's being caught in the airflow.
Hold on, I can answer.
towards
I
the
can answer
vacuum,
that
obviously.
question. Okay, now we're talking about one billiard ball here. We're not talking about a whole bunch of billiard balls. If that billiard ball would get stuck, hang on, I'm answering your
This ball
question.
is confusing you. Let me remove this ball.
No, I'm saying you've only got one billiard ball on this table.
Yeah. All right. Let me
Okay,
just keep one ball.
and that one ball got stuck right there, which means all the kinetic energy is gone, and it's potential energy. It's just sitting there. It will not move until something acts upon it.
Yeah, but I'm asking, what is the force keeping it in this area? Is it being pushed or pulled?
Again, Spurs, you don't understand. I mean, again, I don't know how I'm doing pretty basic here. That ball the vacuums do not suck.
I know. I'm just asking you.
They push. Other molecules are being pushed into a lower pressure system.
So you're saying there's a force from the outside of this table being pushed across the table into that hole.
Yeah, the gas pressure.
No.
The gas
Well,
pressure
that's
is
why.
doing that.
Everyone, don't jump over this. That's why I was very specific, and I asked him specific questions. Is there only one? Is there anything else besides this ball in this table? Is there anything else, or is it just the ball and the vac with nothing else in there?
Just this ball and this. I don't know how to describe it. So we don't know what a vacuum is now then. So
I've got the definition of a vacuum on screen.
Yeah.
What does it say?
Let's have a look. Space.
First.
Oh, it's not very clear. It's very blurry for me. A space, a vacuum cleaner, a clean.
No. The very first definition is critical.
I've got the void. It's very It's not very clear.
Okay, space is entirely void. A
Make it
vacuum
bigger.
space. Okay, hang on.
I think I need glasses, you know. Okay, space entirely devoid of matter. There you go.
That's why I asked the question: is the billiard ball the only thing in that room?
Well, you see, these definitions. Again, I'm only asking a very simple question. I'm saying the ball is in what we describe, what you're giving the definition of. Now, all I'm asking is it being pushed from this side or pulled from this side?
Dude, this is your
sorry,
setup.
I've got to
okay?
step in again, right? So he's asking you to clarify the state of play with things around the ball. In other words, Spurs, is there a load of air currently transitioning from the atmosphere around the ball to the vacuum? Because obviously it's not just the vacuum existing. You can't have that. That would violate a law of nature. Yeah, so it's either transitioning from everything being sucked into it or everything's already been sucked into it. It just depends what you mean when you write the word vacuum there. Either you mean this is a nonsense example which I can't demonstrate, which is just a vacuum sat next to a load of gas pressure, or that vacuum, which is just the hole for the machine that's going to operate, which is inside this billiard table, is sucking or has sucked all of the air already out of this system. So which is it?
So you're saying it's sucked out? Yeah?
No, I'm asking you to clarify your example where you wrote the word vacuum. And Paul's tried to do the same, but you're now tying it to us making a claim about your little diagram. So we're asking you, what's the state of play in your example? What do you mean by vacuum? Is it transitioning? Has it already transitioned? Is it everywhere, the vacuum? Because you're just pointing at a second law of thermodynamics violation. A little black square with vacuum written on it. Well, that's not possible in reality. So hence we're asking you to clarify what this nonsense on screen actually means.
Yeah, is it like a vacuum cleaner continually sucking there? Is it open?
Good questions. Good questions. That's
Or
what
is it
I'm asking.
closed? What is
Questions.
it?
Do they have answers, given that this is your example?
I don't know. I'm asking the question.
Oh my God!
He doesn't know.
This
Let's
is
just take it
your
off screen.
imaginary setup. How
Yeah.
can you
So
not know?
this is why I wanted to kick you, Spurs, because essentially you don't know the example you're making, and you don't know the circumstances that your example's taking place in, and you're asking us to explain it.
That's why you ask questions, because you don't understand something.
No, just sod off and go and learn how gas works.
He's basically stupid, I think.
Yeah, you don't listen to anything we tell you about it, though. So you're saying, oh, well, that's why I ask questions. Well, we give you the answers, for
He just
example,
listens what he wants.
and you don't listen to any of it. So you're not here to have answers to your questions.
I think he was trying to trap me again too. I think he was trying to trap me into. He tried to lay a trap and thought I would get sucked into it.
First, the reason there is no vacuum in nature is because there is pressure in nature and it fills all voids constantly all the time. You get it?
Entropy.
Sure. I mean, that's easily understandable. Yes, of course.
Yeah, and the reason is pressure.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yes, but you need a container for pressure.
Yes, that's correct, Spurs. The antecedent is a container. That's correct. It's necessary in order to have pressure in the first instance. This is the point that I keep saying. This is the only point in your nonsense that I do agree with. Yes, you need to have a container to have pressure. And we do have pressure, don't we, Spurs?
God didn't design a creator. He created a boundary. It's very different to a container, you see.
Really?
Define boundary. Wait. Define boundary.
Well, it's not enclosed. It's just an area that is closed off. You see.
Closed off how? Closed off how?
You know what? There's another word for
what?
what you're describing. It's called a container.
What Bible are you reading?
For example, an igloo. Okay, you could scrape your way through an igloo, right? You could get through. So it's a container, but it's not contained, right? You could get out of an igloo because it's ice. And you could
write a science fiction.
Because when they make an igloo, they make it with a door. A hole so that people can go in and out, right?
Absolutely, yes, of course. But the roof of that igloo, you could penetrate, right? So if you were to throw water at that igloo, it would stick to the roof. It wouldn't be bounced back down, would it? Right?
It's
So
cold.
when
It
we
would
say-
freeze.
Whoa. If you throw water on the top of an igloo, it's going to stick to the igloo? That's what you're saying?
Not all of the most the densest
Off on this
parts
merry
will
little
fall
road we
down,
go about
like
igloos.
like
Like this in any way helps anybody. It doesn't help
No, like,
anybody.
like rain, yes, the densest liquid will fall down, right? But the lightest parts will just stick to will be absorbed in by the
When-
igloo, right? The smallest parts won't be bounced off, will they? Naturally.
When you say God,
gas pressure.
hang on, Flatsoy. When you say that God made this thing, where are you getting your source for that?
Well,
Are you actually
this is
No,
a-
Arwen, please.
yeah, this is a spiritual thing, right? It's not.
No, where? I know, but is it?
So you
written
think
down?
that our
Oh my
Earth realm
gosh.
is an igloo? Is that it?
May I please?
Well, I'm saying
lead
to
him?
think of an igloo. It's not like an igloo, but think of an igloo. So when the particles hit the roof of an igloo, what do we expect to happen? We don't expect them to bounce off the walls of the igloo, right? So we can call it
Let's answer
container,
10
but not
question,
container.
please.
You see?
Air is not water.
Can everyone please
But
respect
then again, you have
my
to
time with the
would
question?
water reach the igloo's roof, and it doesn't. They form
First,
clouds.
answer 10's question, please.
Where do you get the reference that God made this container? Where do you first read about it?
No, I said this is a spiritual thing, and
No, but I know, but spiritual, is it in writing? Did you read it
No,
somewhere?
it's not a right. Look, so if you've read the Bible, that means you're close to God, right? So God will assist.
So you did read something.
No, not that. You know, listen to what I'm saying. Again, you're getting half a story. You have half an understanding.
You made a claim.
Again,
that
half,
God,
not even half here.
you made
So
a claim.
when you read the Bible, right? You've read the Bible. You have an understanding of what God wants you to do, right? So now,
No,
you
don't obfuscate my question. I'm so
No, so now you
tired
have a
of your
relationship
BS.
with God. So you have questions in general. Oh, for goodness
Where
sake.
did you get the claim to reference God with a container? Where do you get it?
Right, it's with spiritual eyes, not with fleshly eyes, right?
But did you read it? My question is, did you
No,
read
no,
it
I
or
didn't
did you?
read it. No, I didn't read it. No.
Okay, because I'm going to share Genesis 1,
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
And God said,
Yeah.
let there be a firmament, be
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
You're
You're cutting his mic.
Thank you. And God said, this is Genesis 1:6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Now, in order for waters to be above something and waters to be below something,
Hold on, 10th
that's
man.
called a barrier.
Hold on, 10th man. You did it again, Spurs. You're nodding along and saying yes, and it cuts his mic.
Okay.
In
I just
order
want to know
for-
that I'm paying attention, but go on, yeah.
I'm going to do an Arwen grunt.
Nah, not working.
All right. Well, you take over. So anyway, thank you. So the description in writing in this inspired Bible written by Moses, inspired by God, says he made a barrier, and the barrier holds water above it and has the earth and waters below it. So it's obviously some kind of barrier that can hold water above it.
Oh.
And you said, no, I'm just saying this is what the Bible teaches. So I'm just trying to figure out
Firmament.
what he meant when he said it doesn't contain. It doesn't hold anything. Like it can go through it. He was saying that earlier. Well, how's it holding the water above it if you're going to say it's in the Bible?
That's right, you're right. So again, ice is considered water anyway, but what we're talking about is water above the water. Absolutely. That's
No, we're talking about water above something called a firmament, which is the word rakia, which is from the root word raka, which means a firm substance.
Yeah, a firm substance. That's right. Like an igloo is a firm substance.
It's holding water above it. It's not saying it was frozen water.
But is it excluding it?
Arwen, please.
Hold on, everyone. Just Arwen and
This is kind of a point.
Arwen, I'll have another talk with you on this. I'm trying to hold Spurs to the word firm, firmament.
Ice is firm.
It's not saying ice. It's saying water.
It's saying that ice is water.
Yeah, Spurs has a point. Ice is also water.
Oh,
It doesn't exclude it.
You see, God won't reveal these things to you, 10th man, because you're not looking through spiritual eyes. You see,
no.
looking through the fleshly eyes. Man.
No, these are just
I want to hear
mistakes.
10th man's response.
Mistakes of interpretation.
I want to hear 10th man's response. Hello.
Keep following 10th man. That's your problem, okay? Read the Bible first, get close to God, have a personal relationship, then speak to him, and he will reveal to you things that you do not understand right now. You see? Very simple.
Okay, that's nice.
Arwen, I want to... Look, every time I clear the air, all that's going to happen is 10th man won't respond, but Spurs will.
Not speaking.
Told you.
For a person who's going to judge my relationship with God, who doesn't have the humility to admit when he's wrong, what do you have to say for that, Spurs?
Well, 10th man, I've answered all of your questions. Water is above the water. I've explained to you like an igloo. That is
water is above the firmament, not above the water.
Yeah, the firmament is just a medium. Yes?
No. No, look, none of these things. You can attribute
Arwen!
all kinds of things to what the firmament is supposed to be doing and how it's there. But it's only roughly described. There is no witness testimony in the Bible about meeting and touching a literal barrier or anything. So it is still quite mysterious. The biggest hint about the firmament is that there's some kind of physical division between waters. And that is it, mostly. That's what I think.
I'm glad everyone is speaking for me.
All right, Arwen. Let 10th man, everybody please let 10th man have his moment with Spurs. Okay, please.
Thank you, Chocolate.
Barely have talked all afternoon.
Oh, God.
Fine. Go.
Are you sure?
Don't make me change my mind again.
Well, it's a habit, it seems like. Anyway, so Spurs declared in an opening statement just a few minutes ago something that God said, or he learned from God, something to that effect. And I asked him where he got this source, and he says it's spiritual. So I'm saying, okay, well, anything we know about God, at least the Christian God, is written in the Bible. So I went to Genesis chapter 1. And it clearly says that on the second day, God made a barrier called a firmament, and there's water above it, not ice, water, and there's waters below it. That's all I'm referencing. And Spurs wants to obfuscate that and deter that by going to an igloo.
Well, what is ice? Ice is water.
I didn't say ice under a frozen state isn't water. It's just the scripture is not saying ice. Why are you inserting a word that's not there?
Because water is ice. Ice is water. What are you talking about?
Hold on. I have a very serious question.
Oh my God, Darwin.
I'm done. I'm done. I can't believe this.
Please. But
Yeah,
it's a
go
good
ahead, Darwin,
question
talk
for
to me.
you.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to know about the language of the Bible, right? Is there a clear, distinct difference between ice and water? Is it there?
I can look up the root word for the water and tell you, but I am just trying to say to you and to Spurs, if you're going to say God said something, then where do we get that saying of God? Well, Spurs claims to believe in the Christian God, so it would have to be the Bible. So I just made the simple connection. Where does it talk about it? It's in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. And it talks about a barrier holding up the water above the waters. Now,
Barrier, not container. Barrier is different
Owen,
to a
hold on.
container.
I'm saying the word
So 10th
barrier.
man, hold on.
It's saying
Hold on,
firmament.
10th man, hold on. Owen, hold on. Go ahead, Spurs.
Well, I'm just saying that he keeps on using his own definition of things, and all we're just trying to explain is water divided from the waters. Now, I've explained an igloo just to give you an understanding of what might it be like, so things don't bounce. Okay?
No, you're wrong. It says, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters."
Yeah.
It's not what. If there's something dividing the waters from the waters, quit putting words in my mouth.
Right.
Could ice not divide water from water?
Yeah, so that could be anything. It's just a medium, like I said, that it's very
Like
difficult.
an ice
for us
wall in
to
between oceans?
It
Oh my
could
God,
be.
Darwin, why are
Except
you
the root
rumpusing this
word-
conversation?
The root word.
I can't hear what they're saying, Owen. It's your fault.
Okay. The root word.
All I'm doing is
raka. The root.
trying
Okay,
to,
Spurs. I'm tired of your BS and obfuscation and talking over and playing victim. You still have not admitted to the water that was removed from the compressor, leaving air pressure alone, which you said you would let this argument go. You did not admit to that when Flatzoid did that demonstration live, which was terrific on his part. And today with Paul and the vacuum, you still are avoiding. Why are you doing this?
I'm just asking questions, 10th man.
You're doing more than asking questions. You have almost for 7 weeks not admitted to anything every time, whether it's Adam Meekin or Nathan or Paul or someone gives you an answer for something. You will not admit to something because you're on this no pressure world tour of yours.
Well, the thing is that it's a model, 10th man, and the way that the atoms, the molecules, and particles react is based on an assumption. Now, until we can remove that assumption and have actually a scientific, validated verification of how the particles, molecules are acting, I think we can ask questions.
Well, it's there. We've been presenting it to you, and you've ignored it. Every little bit of it.
I appreciate the explanations, but a demonstration wouldn't
Yeah,
go.
including demonstrations, several videos, all kinds of videos.
You just don't accept any of it. This is the problem, Spurs.
Because you need a wall.
You keep asking questions. We keep giving you answers, and you just keep asking the same questions. How are we supposed to progress?
Because, like I say, you need.
You literally had both flat earthers and globers telling you, yes, Spurs, gas pressure is a thing.
For different reasons, Chocolate, for different reasons. Gravity in a container that none of them explain.
Nobody said anything about gravity.
No, the ball earthers say gravity, and you say container, and I say a type of an igloo.
No, when Zanuck explained this to you the other day using a barometer, he never mentioned gravity, and we know Zanuck is all about his force due to gravity.
That's correct. So that's a lie, because that's absolutely correct, Chocolate. When Zanuck explained it, he went out of his way to exclude gravity from his explanation. Now, after he got kudos and it was all rounded out, he then strapped on his fundy belief about gravity, which got a good laugh, and I'm pretty sure he did it for comedic effect and for zealotry reasons. But ultimately speaking, when he gave the example, he went out of his way to exclude gravity from that example.
Yes. Yeah, Sonic is a guy who makes things up. He's a ball earther. You cannot have a pressure without a force. You both know, we all know this, right? You need a force. Just like you need a container. That's the force.
Like every time he does this, I literally get nauseated.
So again, is the problem that you cannot prove this container? Is that what the problem is for you? Because
no, we've proven it already. When balloons go up, when we see that balloon go up, when we see balloons go up to their highest height, no, come on, look. When we see balloons go to the highest heights, we see that there is no container above. The temperature has dropped. And
how do we know the container is not a lot higher than where the balloons are reaching? How is that confirmation? How is that confirmation of anything?
You can see.
You see what?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
How is that confirmation of anything?
Yeah,
you can see the edge now.
You can see above the balloon. What do you mean?
So then you can see to how.
So because we don't see a sign that says "Here is container" posted on the container, so that we have to assume there's no container because we don't see it.
No, I'm saying
even though we have gas pressure, so which means there has to be a container.
Let's think a minute. We can take man-made objects so high, and then just above that, we can see, but we can't go. So there's an invisible barrier, wall, whatever you want to call it. We can see it, but we can't get to it.
Really? You can see invisible barriers.
Try to think about it. You take a rocket as far as you can take it. The rocket stops. Now, let's say you jump out, and let's just say you've got a ladder. You climb. You wouldn't be able to get through that, would you? How? With what? You can see it, but you can't get through it.
Are you insane?
Yes,
you're claiming you can see invisible barriers. Are you listening to yourself?
No, listen to what you're saying. Take a balloon and take it to the highest height. Okay. So what's the reason the balloon can't go? Okay, build a better balloon, a better device. Okay, go higher. It stops. Why can't you go? You can see it. You can see just above you, but you can't go there. There's an area just above your head that you can see, but you can't enter.
How do you know how far above your head this is?
Every device that we have.
How can you know where it is?
This is serious.
How can you know where it is?
Look, every rocket. See what I mean? It's just you're not thinking, are you? Every device that we have ever built, a balloon, a rocket, reaches a certain height. So when it reaches that height, there's still stuff above it. Doesn't mean that it's hit something. There's something above it. You can see it, but you can't go there. What are you going to do?
How high are the stars?
Oh, for goodness sake. You're not hearing the point. We have rockets that can go so high. What is above where the rocket can't go?
What rocket?
Stars.
What rocket?
Question we don't have the answer to.
Sorry, who's this we?
You can see that there is a container.
Spurs. Who's the we? Who we have rockets? Who's we?
No, when you send a balloon up and it pops.
Freudian slip there.
No, when you have a balloon and you goes up, it pops. You can see above it, but you can't go where that balloon at the highest height.
Spurs.
You can't go there.
Spurs.
You can see it.
Spurs.
How do you know what's the highest height, Spurs?
Can I just ask this question again? Hopefully, you'll get an answer this time. You said we have rockets. Who's we?
Anyone. Let's just say amateurs. Anyone.
We're amateurs, rocketeers.
Hands up.
Anybody with a rocket.
Hold
now
on.
Listen, this is the point.
Hold on, Spurs. Hands up on Discord or on Google Plus if you have a rocket.
Mad Mike.
Sorry,
I got a rocket in my pants.
Spurs.
Mad Mike.
Spurs. You're not Mad Mike, are you?
No, but Mad Mike.
Is Mad Mike on the panel?
No, but we.
Is Mad Mike on the Discord server? Because I'm asking the Discord server, and all I'm hearing is you.
Sorry, but go on then.
Oh my God.
Nope, no rockets here.
So who's this we again?
Maybe Spurs has a rocket.
Now you're being very childish. You know what I mean? I'm talking about a balloon, a rocket.
No, Spurs. You didn't say balloon.
I did. I said any device.
No, you didn't.
I said a balloon.
You said we have rockets. And when I asked you to qualify it, you obfuscated. Then when I tried to pin everyone else down to qualifying it, you justified it by talking about Mad Mike.
Well, that's what, I don't mean a space rocket. I'm just talking about the rockets that work with atmosphere to press on. That would give you pressure, right? Because it's a force that's creating it, something that to press on, absolutely. So when that rocket goes up to the highest height...
What's the highest height?
What's the world record? Do we know that? Is it a secret? But what do we know that's on YouTube, generally, publicly, that we know of?
How do you know that's the limit?
We're not talking about secret missions. We're talking about what we know of.
How do you know that's the limit of the height?
Well, then demonstrate you can go higher and demonstrate that you can get into that area that we can see. We can see that area, but we can't enter that area. Go figure.
What you can see exactly?
We can see above the balloon.
When did you try?
Balloon goes, let's say a balloon goes 200,000 feet.
How far are the stars from
hold on a second, Spurs. Have you tried this?
I haven't tried this now.
This is Spurs. So this is just your belief.
No. Again, from
sorry. Let me just ask again. You haven't done this.
Yeah.
You just trust in the people that show you balloon footage. Just trusting in this.
Paul presented a balloon video.
Yeah, and you just trust it. So you haven't done it. You just trust it. This is what you're leveling us at. You haven't proven that with this gas pressure. Spurs, I'm talking. Spurs. What you're leveling at us is not proving the things we claim. And you've not done any of this, have you, Spurs?
No, I'm just thinking.
Yeah. You seem to go to this I'm thinking or asking questions nonsense when you present things, which you are, and then you've got no justification for presenting them or any backing of your own. So it's your problem that you don't want to solve by doing anything. I think this was pointed out to you by Jose. So you don't want to do anything, but you want us to do stuff about it and then challenge your beliefs in the stuff that you present. That's what you want us to do, is it, Spurs? Why haven't you done this? This balloon that you keep babbling on about when I ask you about rockets. Why haven't you done it?
Because it's a thought experiment, right?
Not a thought experiment. We're not interested. We're interested in the nature of reality here. Seems you're not here for truth then. You're here to do thought experiments. Excuse me. This is why I don't think you're welcome here anymore, Spurs. We're interested in the nature of reality and you're interested in doing thought experiments for 6.5 weeks.
We're talking about what's up there.
You've not done it, have you? You don't know because you've not done it. We say we don't know what the sky is. There's a positive assertion from the globeheads that it's a vacuum. We here, don't know about anybody else, we say we don't know. Now you want to challenge us not knowing by making us...
An aeroplane.
Spurs, I'm talking, Spurs. You want to challenge... Spurs, why are you continually talking through everything everybody says? When you're presenting your beliefs, something you've criticised us about over the last 6 weeks, about air pressure. And in reality, you're just presenting your beliefs in this stuff you haven't done. You're just believing this. And you think that's fair game to spend 6.5 weeks on it. And it's not. It's totally unreasonable. Because all you've got is your bloody belief in what balloons do. Because you've not done any of it, have you?
I've been in an aeroplane, so I could...
That's not a balloon. You keep babbling on about balloons, now you're babbling on about aeroplanes. I asked you about rockets, and you went on and on and on about balloons.
You're right, I concede. I should have meant...
So is this what's my belief in balloons, Spurs? Because it seems to me pretty pathetic that your what's my pressure tour is based on your smegging belief in this.
No,
Isn't it pathetic, Spurs? You're going around challenging people based on your beliefs and your thought experiments. You are just a weasel.
Of course not. I would never do that.
So you've gone out and performed these balloon tests, have you, Spurs?
No.
So you watched my pressure tours just based on your belief in this stuff, is it, Spurs? Or have you done it?
No, I've been 30,000 feet. We can't
in a plane, in an aeroplane, in an aeroplane. Yeah. So this balloon stuff that you kept on babbling on about when I was talking about rockets that you say we've got, that balloon stuff, you're going around talking about balloons a lot and this area that we can't go to a lot. Well, you haven't done this.
No,
it's
you're
just
right. I haven't.
But Spurs, I'm talking. Spurs, I'm in the middle of talking. This is just a belief you hold, Spurs. With your beliefs and your thought experiments and your challenges to us. That's what you've got. Beliefs and thought experiments. And we're bored of it, Spurs. Your bloody thoughts. That's what we're having to get tied up in. One man's thoughts and his misapprehensions about gas working. That's what we spent the last 6.5 weeks. It's totally unreasonable, Spurs.
That is. I agree with that, actually. What I should have said, aeroplanes.
Again.
I should have said the aeroplanes that I've been in.
He's just ignoring.
He's right. Nathan's
just
right.
Ignore and move on with your railroad narrative leading nowhere.
I'm going to rumpus him to the end of the show.
I agree. Nathan's right.
Yeah, so you have to stop agreeing with what's right, which we all know it's right, and go and do some stuff and come back and claim that you have done something and back your assertions.
For me to say balloons would be wild, right? I have never demonstrated this. Absolutely. I should never have made that claim in the first place.
Yeah, well,
Paul, can you share your screen?
But
Paul, can you share your
I
screen,
have been in an
please?
aeroplane at 30,000 feet. And so why can't planes or anything go higher than that?
I don't know, Spurs.
Balloons? How high do balloons go?
Yeah.
I don't know, but as far as
Benign question. So what? So what? So what? So what? So what? What's this proving, Spurs? Spurs, you're talking through me non-stop again. Happens a lot. So what, Spurs? What does this prove or disprove about the height that a commercial airliner can take you as a passenger? What's it prove or disprove?
Well, it proves that so far there's an area above us that we can't enter.
Spurs,
sorry, Spurs. Guys, you said there's an area that we can't enter. And when did you try to enter it, Spurs?
Well, I was in an airplane. I said to the pilot...
No, Spurs. Not you asking someone else to do it for you. When did you try to enter the area that your belief about is now being expressed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd try to get in a plane that would go higher.
No, they don't, do they, Spurs? That's trying to say, well, I asked this boat to go a different direction that it was chartered to go. Well, that's not reasonable as a disproving that boats can change their direction now, is it? But that's what you're doing. And I'm asking you in relation to balloons, as that was your last example. Now we've got planes. Did you try and go and get a pilot's license and hire a plane and attempt to go into that area, Spurs? As opposed to changing a chartered flight's direction and cruising altitude. Because that's not going to disprove anything now, is it? That's just totally unreasonable.
You can get a chauffeur. You don't have to drive yourself.
Yeah, and have you done that?
Yeah, I've tried to ask to go higher than 30,000.
No, that's not what I'm asking. It's unreasonable to ask a ferry to change direction or an airplane to change its cruising altitude. That doesn't disprove anything. I'm asking you if you have done anything beyond your belief about what you've expressed about the area that you believe we can't go to. Have you backed your fundy claim? Or are you going to tell me that it's sufficient to declare that you can have gas pressure without containers because you've gone on a plane and asked the pilot to deviate from his chartered path? That's totally and utterly ridiculous.
Well, like I say, no one's been higher than 30,000 feet.
Have you checked that? What the hell? My last string of questioning, you've completely ignored and just reasserted your fundamentalist position without actually addressing any of the things you would need to do to back that fundy claim you've just reasserted. So you've not checked this out. It's just your belief, Spurs. Something you've criticised us of for the last 6.5 weeks in regards to something that's demonstrably bloody obvious? Unlike your fundy claim based on your belief. And what's your belief based on? Asking a pilot to go higher and him saying no? That's totally ridiculous.
Why?
Spurs, there's actually a pilot on the 24/7 Discord, and she's been up to at least, I think, about 60,000 feet.
Ah, well, there you go. So she can, we'll ask her why she can't go higher than 60,000 feet.
Because the plane cannot operate
But nobody said that she couldn't go higher. I'm just saying that that's
And
she's
what does it
been that
matter?
high.
What does it matter what her answer is? What does it matter?
Nathan, can
Sorry,
you share Paul's
Spurs.
screen for me?
Spurs. And what does it matter what her answer is? Is she the arbiter of the sky? Does she suddenly have the keys and knowledge to what the sky is? Based on her answer of why the mechanics of her aircraft can't go beyond a certain altitude? You think she's going to be the arbiter of whether or not gas pressure is real, do you? No. This is nonsense. She's no more going to know the answer than you are.
No, but she would have done a test to see if she
what?
could
So
go
she's going to
higher.
do tests for you? So what? You're going to now push your ignorance and beliefs and the proving thereof onto her? No. Why aren't you doing this? This is the point I've been asking you about. You hand-waved it and moved on to some random pilot that Chocolate brought up and started foisting these onto her. And I'm asking you why you're not doing it and you're just talking over me non-stop. You're not doing it, are you? Because you've just got beliefs about it and you're going to get other people to try and disprove your bloody beliefs.
But again, this is my point. You haven't been any higher than this, but you believe what is above the height you've actually been.
No, I don't. I don't have any beliefs. I've not made any claims in that regard.
Well, then why are you having this argument then?
You're having this argument. You're declaring gas pressure's not real.
Nathan, will you share Paul's screen just for a second? I got to get to work. I want to say one
Sure.
last thing, please. Nonsense.
That's too much, guys.
Too much nonsense.
Yeah, Paul's up.
Okay.
He's on mute,
Paul's
so
up.
do you want to talk through what's on there? Because he might not be in front of his mic.
So it's just 2 slides. This is referencing Psalm chapter 147, where he uses the word ice. And you could see that the word is Kirak, or if that's the way you pronounce it. It's Strong's Concordance H7140, Kirak. Paul, show the other one, please. And this is for ice, this one. Now, this is the Genesis 1:6, where it talked about the water above the waters separated by a firmament. And it's the word mayim. And you could see it's not ice, it's water. This is the root words of the scripture I used. Thank you very much.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned into the premiering stream on the Nathan Oakley channel for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to all of today's debating panel, of course, for making this live and after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!